regarding hotel tax abatements. Do we have, who's teeing this up, Mr. Town Manager?
This is going to be Mr. Del Santos
Okay.
and Mr. Perillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the Economic Strike Committee meeting, we discussed tax abatements for hotels. We've done this in the past, but they sunset. So there's a lot of interest in building hotels there in Southington, so we thought it'd be a good idea to reintroduce it. The abatement states as follows: any applicant constructing a new hotel in the town of Southington with a construction cost exceeding $3 million in new taxable real property improvements shall be eligible for a tax abatement consisting of 5 years with the following schedule. Year 1, 100%, year 2, 100%, year 3, 100%, year 4, 50%, and year 5, 50%. An application shall be filed with the Economic Development Office, and the Economic Development Strike Committee shall make a recommendation to the Town Council. The Town Council may approve or deny an application at its sole discretion. Unless further action is taken by the Town Council, this tax abatement plan shall expire on June 30th, 2026. The abatement applies to new real property improvements only. The abatement does not apply to personal property. The abatement does not apply to the land. So this is construction only. Real property improvements only.
Okay, is that all?
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Del Santo. Any questions from the dais before we open the public hearing? Okay. Does anybody here want to speak either in favor or against the hotel tax abatement, or you want to make general comments? Please come on up to the podium now. And you can state your name and address for the record when you come on up, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bob Rembish, and I live at 85 West Street in Plantsville section. I know this is the meeting about the abatement, but I think what I might bring to light is something that might reflect your need to do an abatement. And we have to say, how many hotels in town do we have? We have 3 large hotels up on West Street, probably within a mile of this hotel. Now, this hotel is down, it's supposedly a boutique hotel, and boutique hotels usually have, you know, a surrounding of a really pleasant landscape. It's make it look attractive. But anyways, I look at this proposal as a failure of town government in the sense that when this hotel was brought up for approval, I don't know whether or not the Board of Education or the town or the school superintendent had any input into this project. This hotel sits only 200 yards away from the schoolyard of the Osana School. And there are laws in the state that don't allow firearms within a certain period of school or drugs within a certain distance of a school. You could have both of these at a hotel. Or, I mean, this hotel in direct view of a play yard. You could get, you know, these transients come in. If they wanted to do some damage in terms of focusing on a child in a play yard, they could do it from a window in the hotel. And you're going to get transients coming into this kind of a hotel. And we have hotels and motels around town which are basically drug dens and areas for prostitution and whatever. And if a hotel fails to start earning the kind of money it needs to stay alive, you're going to get this kind of proposals going into that area. And today, for instance, in today's Harvard Current, there was an article where in a hotel in Windsor Locks, they found a young child alone in a hotel room with drugs and whatever. And the police ended up taking this child into custody, et cetera. But this could be Southington, this could be in a boutique hotel on the corner of West Street. So you have to look at those kind of issues. And this hotel is the gateway to the new Plansville renovation, where everything is being spent to revitalize the Plansville downtown. And the other thing being is, I presented this to the board of, approvals, the zoning approval committee way back when, and I showed them a photo of the traffic that occurs on West Street and West Main Street and Marion Avenue at many times during the daytime, and it's not a difficult thing to understand how people will come in and out of a hotel in this particular situation. So thank you for my time to talk, but I would expect that you would deny this. And maybe when you think about it, how important is the life of a student in the schoolyard that may be a victim of someone in a hotel room with a rifle taking a pot shot. And there's the Board of Education, we have a principal of a middle school here, I know. You're certainly aware of the needs for security and the safety of our students. So I would take all those into consideration and maybe even find a way to resurrect this whole idea of a hotel there for those particular reasons. 200 yards away with a rifle is nothing to take out a couple of kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rembish. Just for clarification as well for those who are here, tonight the public hearing is regarding the establishment of this ordinance, which has expired. It's not necessarily tonight. We will not hear any applications for this ordinance. This is just whether the town would like to create an ordinance to provide a tax abatement for future potential applicants. Okay, anybody else would like to come speak at the public hearing about tax abatement for hotels? Please. You have to, I'm sorry, you have to come on up to the microphone where we can hear you. Take your time. Do we want to see if we can get it near the chair so she can sit down, maybe?
Oh, why don't I bring the microphone to her?
That's what I asked Alex.
Sit next to it, maybe?
That's all right.
We're going to try to see if the microphone,
Chair? That would be good.
yeah, see if the microphone will get pulled over to the chair.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We're just going to try to get the microphone so that you can sit down.
I have a question. I kind of been out of the... Out of it for a while based on some operations.
Chris, maybe just pull the laptop down so we can see.
What's 17 West Street?
Okay, if you can start by maybe just stating your name and address for the
Cheryl
record.
Vancor, 220 West Main Street, Plansville.
Hi, Ms. Van Gore.
VAN, capital COR.
Take your time.
I live at 220 West Main Street. And 17 West Street, is that on the corner of Marion Avenue, West Main Street? And West, where is that?
17 West Street?
Yeah,
I'm unsure.
we're talking about tax abatements here.
Right, the tax abatement is that's before us right now for the public hearing,
Right.
is to create a general policy for hotel tax abatement. It is not, we're not talking about a specific property tonight.
Okay,
Only just the policy That, our last hotel
Well, if it's
abatement
hotel,
policy.
if it's hotels,
Yeah.
and they want to build one on the corner of West Main Street and West Street and Marion Avenue, I'm against it. I'm against it because if they're going to be building a hotel there, which you're talking about, I was never notified whether I could agree or disagree about that. It's a little piece of property, and based on the, I hope you don't mind me going on a few more minutes.
Take your time.
Based on the property, and when they redesigned the entrance and the exits in that area, I get traffic going 80 miles an hour past 220 West Main Street all the time. And then there's a fence where there was a school bus accident, Prospect Street, well known. Why is there a fence there? Why was that allowed? The visibility is poor, so you got a sign there to slow down. And I'm against any hotels in that area or any tax abatement because it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us a lot of money between lighting, and if you do a 55 and over, they got homemakers and companions coming in, nurses, relatives. I don't want anything in that area. We're basically residential. So basically, I'm against any tax rebates or approving the law when you're building in areas such as Plantsville, which I know you're redeveloping it, and I'm thankful for that. But you got to consider the residents that live there. They have to get in and out. I've seen traffic down past the center of Plantsville. It's crazy. You can't build anymore in that area. Leave it alone. Tax abatement? No, not in that area.
Thank you for coming out. Mr. Roberts. Now, Mr. Robarge, I have to ask you, because you've told me that you moved out of Southington.
And I'm back.
No, the public hearing,
I'm
public
back.
hearing is for Southington residents only, so state your name and address for the record.
I'm George Roberge. I live at 37 Eden Avenue in Southington, Connecticut.
Welcome back.
Thank you very
Good to see
much.
you.
I'm glad to be back. I was in Farmington for 1 month, gave my notice. I said, I'm coming back. I got to
Welcome.
get out of there.
Welcome.
You know, there have been enough killings at school. If you go down Queen Street to some of the places that are down there now, how many times are these killings at school going to keep occurring? I remember when Father O'Brien was principal at St. Paul's, and I ran into him in Lakeville after Columbine. This was many years ago. And he was pastor at St. Mary's up there, and he said to me, George, and there were tears in his eyes, this is just the beginning. And it's only getting worse and worse and worse. My wife's building is dedicated right there, and there's another dedication of a grove right there for her too. Jimmy Morelli's familiar with it. Guys, don't allow another place where we're putting children at risk. Haven't we seen enough in this country? We do not want to put any children at risk in this town. We assume it will never happen here. It will happen here sooner or later. Killing is killing. I wouldn't put anything there, nothing.
Mr. Robarge, we're only, right now, we're only talking about a tax abatement policy.
All right, I know it, but I'm just gonna put my 2 cents in on this. I'm 82 years old. I've seen this town change so much over the years. I'll speak later on another thing. But by God, protect these kids no matter what we ever do in this town. You know, I'll talk later, but please, don't do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Robarge. And just for the public's clarification, The decision for putting a hotel on a property is the planning and zoning's decision. The reference lot that's been discussed during the public hearing has been already approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this committee has no oversight into that. So this is not in regards to whether a hotel is coming on the corner of West and West Main. That was approved many months ago by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So today, we're talking about a hotel tax abatement policy for this public hearing. So if there's anybody else who would like to speak about a hotel tax abatement policy that is before us, please come on up to the microphone. Tax abatement policy public hearing, last time? Okay, we will close the public hearing, and we will move on to our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Here.
William Dietzick,
Here.
James Morelli,
Here.
Tony Morrison,
Yeah.
Christopher Palmieri,
Here.
Jack Perry,
Here.
Jennifer Klock,
Here.
Michael Del Santo,
Present.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, can we all please stand for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, open our eyes this evening to the truth and reality of every situation that we encounter. Give us solutions that are the best for our community now and in the future. Keep your hand upon Southington and continue to make her great. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are looking for a motion, item A under meeting minutes, section 2A, meeting minutes, regular meeting, August the 12th, 2024. I'm looking for a motion to approve those with an amendment to add the memo that we actually sent to Reworld prior to the last meeting minutes. We want to incorporate those into the meeting minutes. They weren't there, so whoever makes a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to approve the minutes from August 12th with the addition just mentioned by the chair.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the regular meeting minutes of August the 12th. Any discussion? Further discussion? Okay. Hearing none? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Oh, I need to abstain.
Okay, Val, sorry. We have one abstention, so 801 with Councilwoman DiPaolo abstaining. Okay,
And
item
who-
B,
I'm sorry,
special.
who seconded the?
Mr. Morelli.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, item B, we're looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the special meeting of the Town Council, September 5th, 2024.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Okay, we have a motion from Chris and a second from Val. Any discussion on the special meeting?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
thank you. So I just, I may have a potential conflict of interest with that, so I made sure I did not attend that meeting, and I sent the entire council an email in regards to that.
Thank you for putting that on the record, and I think the meetings are also reflective of that, correct? That Mr. Perry was not in attendance at the special meeting, 9-5. Okay, any other discussions on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions?
One abstention.
One
I
abstention,
abstain. I
two
abstain.
abstentions.
I didn't make the meeting.
So the motion passes 7-0-2. Councilman Perry and the vice chair abstaining. Okay, item 3, councilperson communications. Why don't we start off by, before we open it up, can we invite Dr. Fitzgerald to come on up and talk to us a little bit about the Yukon Health Program that we all received information about, so that we can have Mr. Fitzgerald here, talk, and then we won't have you stay for the rest of the meeting unless you so choose to do so.
Very well. I had some slides.
Thank you so much for coming. We were very
Absolutely.
delighted to, I was delighted to talk with you the couple times that we spoke, and wanted to thank Val also for the introduction. So thank you, Val, for sending that along. I also want to acknowledge that our STEPS team is here as well. Megan and Bill Palmieri are here. And Dr. Fitzgerald, we'll turn the floor over to you to tell us about the program and the follow-up, how it occurred, and what the resources are.
Very well. I had some slides, but I don't know if those are
Sure. We
able
can
to
get
go
those
up.
going
I
for
can
you.
I can talk without
Yeah.
it too, so whatever works. So yeah, I'm Dave Fitzgerald. Oh, you got it? I'm a psychologist at Yukon Health. Oh, do you need that? Thank you. Sorry. It's going to be under 8 minutes, so.
80?
8. 08.
Take your time. We're prepared. We're prepared.
Right, they said it was already loaded on here, but I have it on a flash drive if you need it.
And for those who are, we're pulling up the laptop and the presentation. We did receive the presentation before the meeting today, so what is being presented today will be included in the meeting minutes as well for the public to see.
Just go to.
Do we need to shut that one light on by the door?
Let's do it without. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent.
Okay, so as I was starting to say, I'm Dave Fitzgerald. I'm a psychologist at UConn Health, and I wanted to, first of all, thank the council members and chairs for having me and being able to spend a few minutes of time, just kind of overviewing the Child and Family Development Program at UConn Health Southington, which is a Southington-specific program, a Southington-funded program, thanks to the Main Street Community Foundation, and just take a little bit of time to let you know what our fall programming is looking like, as well as reviewing what we've done over the last couple of years. So, as you can see here, the pandemic and rise in child and mental health and parent mental health problems were part of the kind of background context for us to do this, accordingly, which we knew from a lot of sources that there were reductions in resources. Many opportunities for interventions were closed or not accessible to folks, despite opening of some telehealth options. In terms of a local context, we were asked by the Main Street Community Foundation for some responsive programming to these problems, and informing our intervention was the data from the STEPS program. I draw this out. It's a little busy. I kind of made it busy on purpose so people could get some sense of how all of the different Southington programs are interconnected. I don't know how well people are aware of how this happens. To start off at the top, thanks to the Main Street Community Foundation for funding our program, as well as some of the other ones there. You can see the community health outreach, as well as the early childhood collaborative. And we all work with each other through the community stakeholders group, but you can see some of the funding partners there through Main Street Community Foundation and all of our interactive relationships. It could be even busier than that, but I just did it that way so folks have a sense that we're working with the library and the STEPS program and the school system, and those are all working with each other. So I wanted to give folks some sense of the interconnectedness of this programming. But specifically to our program and the STEPS data themselves, in 2022, we looked at the data from that program, and specifically, you're hopefully somewhat familiar that those are surveys that go out to the students, but there's also a supplement that goes out to parents. And so here in 2022, you saw about 500 parents answered. I think 98% of them had children in school. So most of the parents who were answering were children or parents of school-age children. You can see 80% of those parents, of those 500 parents, said they were either very concerned or extremely concerned about their children's mental health, their stress and anxiety, emotional well-being, more like a third to 40%, and then 20% relationships with family and friends. So clearly there was a highlighting of concerns about mental health among parents and children and families. Some follow-ups, about a third of those folks were asked, what support do you need as a parent right now? And here are some of the different answers that were kind of coded by the STEPS researchers kind of into different categories, some in terms of school resources, some in terms of interventions and resources available to help with their interactions with their kids, and some in terms of just educational resources. So in response to that, we created several services. We have parent groups, which I'll describe in a little bit more detail as we go, access to medication evaluation services, as well as identifying other community resources available. That is a function of our interacting with the other partners that we are kind of working with, which I showed you earlier. In terms of the education and resources, we have both in-person resources, library resources, as well as an online set of resources. So we tried to be responsive to the concerns of parents addressing that they wanted more resources and some ways to help. In terms of our programs. We have 2 child and adolescent psychologists, a child and adolescent psychiatrist. We have our LCSW, who's also our program coordinator, and is in the back of the room here, Ms. Sophia Brown. We thank her for joining us. She has materials in the back if you care to grab some of those on the way out, or take them with you to kind of distribute, because we are going to be getting started with our fall round of programming in about 3 to 4 weeks. You'll be seeing that as well through the school system. That will be going out on Parent Square sometime soon. So hopefully all of this kind of synergistic awareness can help us have a really good round of groups this fall. We have, as well, in response to some of the state's desires to have increased mental health providers and training, we have students who are finishing their MDs or PhDs join us as co-leaders, so they learn from the attending faculty. Our goals are to increase these things because we know child behavior improves when these things are improved. So certainly there might be some specific skills to learn, things that we can do to help parents improve their stress and improve their confidence. One of the things we know that comes from that is just the opportunity to sit and work with other parents. So understanding that you can find out that you're not the only one who is concerned or extremely concerned about your child's well-being, and having a little bit more confidence with the tools that we provide through our groups to be able to respond with some better understanding of the child's emotion and behavior, so parents feel more confident about how does one respond to something like this. So as we like to say, it's for the kids, but the kids don't have to be there, because we are working principally with parents. But just so that you can see it as effective, we have our parents complete before and after measures of their child's behavior. So this is a pretty short, it's the pediatric symptom checklist. It's 17 items ranging from anxiety to depression to noncompliance, those kinds of behaviors. And this is a well-validated brief scale that we use, and we look at before and after, so you can see the program that we use calculates statistically significant change, and this thing, it's called reliable change. So a score could be different from time 1 to time 2, but not statistically or significantly different. So you can see 3/4 of the parents rate their child's behavior significantly improved after attending our groups. That other quarter's breaking down into about half of them are neither worse nor better. And although at first we might say, well, that's bad that we see some got worse, it's actually good for us, and this is actually a hallmark of what we call measurement-based care, which we do in more clinical regions and work, because identifying decrements like that help us identify families that need more help. So most of the kids that were in that orange range, we either referred on to our medication evaluation services as appropriate, or Sophia found them some additional resources within the community from what we know from all those other agencies we were working with, or sometimes even beyond that. So that's the benefit of that from a quantitative perspective. Qualitatively, I don't know if I can make that bigger. You can see some of these. I'll point your attention to the one in the middle that says the group leader strategies were genius and really helped. I put that up at the house on occasion when I have disputes at the house, and it's helpful to there's objective evidence here that I'm a genius. I really think we should defer to my idea on this. But people generally find the resources helpful, the lending library, the strategies for how to deal with children's range of behaviors. And lastly, again, the last part, as I said, it's helpful to hear that someone's not alone. So sitting with some other parents that are having a similar set of difficulties is helpful too, and parents tell us that. So we are starting with increased awareness here and participation, hopefully for the fall. Our programming begins October 2nd. Those are Wednesday evenings. They happen through the UConn Health Southington site after hours when those specialty clinics close, and we come in around 5:15, 5:30, and we run two sets of concurrent groups. We have, which you can see on our flyer, which we'll hand out, where you can grab at the back. We have an ongoing drop-in support group for parents of children with autistic spectrum disorder or other neurodevelopmental disorders, and that's open-ended and drop-in. You can come in person or virtually, because we have virtual attendance options. And then we have 3 different groups that will be running that are more structured in terms of their time. So they're 8 or 10 week programs that kind of cycle through a curriculum, if you will. And the 3 of those include the first one, which is managing children's behavior. Good for 6 to 11, parents of 6 to 11-year-olds, for kids who aren't very compliant or oppositional, because kind of not doing what they're asked, and to the point that it's causing distress. The other 2 are mirrored with what we call tuning into teens or tuning into kids, and these are 2 intervention programs. Again, all of these are evidence-based, well-researched, which you can see shows some good outcomes. And those groups focus on improving what we call, or what the creators of it call an emotion coaching perspective. So helping parents understand how to better respond to their children's emotions or frustrations. So as a quick example, I don't want to go to school today. Of course you do. You want to go to school. You love school. That might be an encouraging way to kind of try to get them out the door, but it's not totally responsive to what they're saying. It might be better to say something like, you normally like to go, but today you're saying nah, I wonder why. So just being a little bit more curious, and they might say, well, Billy said I wasn't nice on the bus, or I have no idea. But sometimes just being able to kind of be a little bit more curious and step back is an opportunity for us to understand them a little bit better and give a more reflective response, which then the research shows leads to better problem solving. And you only actually have to get to problem solving with the child about 30% of the time to see some differences. So you don't have to coach them up and give them a solution every single time, but opening the door with some of these different styles and emotion coaching has been shown to be helpful. So that's it. It was probably a little over 8, so sorry about that. More information here, if you want to QR code that, we have all of our contacts in the back on the flyers. We have a website, we have the QR code. You can text or call Sophia, and I'm open to any questions as you have them.
And probably stronger relationships between the parent and the child as well, right? As we learn to master these skills as parents. A parent who's got a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old, I certainly wish that I had access to learn some of this stuff earlier on as I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for my wife, who's much smarter than I am and able to handle some of those.
Yes.
Dr.
that's exactly
Fitzgerald,
right.
before we open it up for questions, I know we also have Sophia's here, Ms. Brown, and we also have the STEPS team, Megan Albanese and Bill Palmieri. Is there anything else that we wanted to say as part of the presentation about any background context or about the program before we open it up? If
It's
so,
free. It's free.
It's
Thank
free?
you. Thanks to the Main Street Community
Okay.
Foundation.
And I want to just give the last thing before I open it up. You mentioned Main Street Community Foundation. It's just huge, and it shouldn't go without saying it again and again. The Main Street Community Foundation does so much in communities like Southington, including Southington.
Yeah.
But if it weren't for the Main Street Community Foundation, with the support that they give, with the financial support they give, and much more, a lot of things like this and many other programs would not come to fruition.
Yes.
We would struggle to do them.
No, I agree,
so
and that's
we-
why I had that
So huge.
slide, so everybody had a sense of how that kickstarts all of these relationships, and then we keep the momentum going, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just wanted to mention, Susan Sadecki is here, the executive director of the Main Street Community Foundation, and these programs are, this is through the Bradley Barnes Trust. So you're absolutely correct that Main Street does so much, and Main Street, as the trustee of the Bradley Barnes Trust, those funds have to be used in Southington. So we are so blessed
Yes.
as a community that these funds are used on an annual basis, grants are given out, and it's just great to see. So the Bradley Barnes Trust started with, got Wheeler involved and the Early Childhood Collaborative. Now STEPS is getting involved with the survey, but then you're involved through a grant from the Bradley Barnes Trust.
Exactly.
So I just want to thank Susan for being here
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you for
And I
coming.
just have one question.
Yes, please.
So when the parents go through maybe an 8 to 10 week session and then they're done.
Well, they don't have to be done,
They
but
don't have-
those data represent what happens after
So
they
that's
finish.
my question. If they feel that they want.
We've had folks come for a second.
Second session or-
Yeah, or a related one, so they might do the managing children's behavior and then come back to do tuning into kids, because they're complementary, but they're not exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
sure.
there's ongoing.
Yeah, and people can use the
resources.
resources. They want to get a book later after they finished in the fall. Yeah, and
Yeah.
all of that's absolutely, yeah.
good.
It's
Thank
not,
you.
you're
It's not like
fully-
one and done.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Del Santo?
Thank you very much for the presentation, very
Yeah.
informative. I remember when Steps went over the results of it, it was troubling.
Yeah.
My kids are a little younger than Paul's. They're 17 and 16 now, but at the time, they were right around that meaty part where you talked about earlier, the
Yeah.
age of middle school, just getting into high school. But my question kind of centers what Val asked as well. Are the sessions rolling, or do you have to start on session 1, complete the 10, and then wait for the next 10 to start? Or can you hop in at any time and get, can you come in on session 4?
Sure.
And do 4 to 10 and then take 1 to 3 after? Or is it when it starts, you run through 10 and then you start another?
We try to do it running with everybody, but sometimes people can't make the first one. Usually if you can't make the first 1 or 2,
Okay.
you can kind of get caught up. If you come in too far in the middle.
You'll miss it.
Right, but we have other support services available so that if they really wanted to come in at 5 and we said, well, let us finish 5 to 10 and then you can start at the next one, they could utilize the drop-in support group in the meantime to kind of discuss things. But yeah, it's a little bit easier to have a cohesive group, if you will, with the same kind of content known to them, rather than, otherwise you feel like you're kind of going backwards and some people kind of already know that piece. So there's a little wiggle room, but we try not to get it halfway or past. We probably would have them start at the beginning of the next one.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other questions? And if I can ask the council to just, we're going to have this in our packet, or it's going to be in the minutes. This is such a valuable tool. It would be great if we could all just push it out there on our social media platforms and let people know. The more people that know, the more people will use it.
Yeah.
And the more people that use it are gonna benefit and make the community even healthier. So, and it's
That'd
all
be
about the
great.
kids.
Yep, and they don't have to be there.
And they don't have to be there. Thank you so much for
Sure,
coming.
you're welcome. I think there was one. No?
Question.
Oh.
What if the student is in special ed? Do you dovetail with the special ed teacher or the school nurse, school psychologist, or the city? I don't know if you have a traveling psychologist.
Well, we probably wouldn't be overlapping to that degree with school services, but certainly the parents, we've had parents of children who are in special ed that they're appropriate for any of those groups in terms of, there's no reason a child receiving special ed programming wouldn't be eligible for any of the things I just talked about. Is that,
Wonderful, thank you.
All children are eligible.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about communication. If you find something that really works, are you sharing it with the school?
we'll probably ask the parents to do that. If they ask us specifically, it hasn't come up, we could, but generally speaking, we're helping the parents be more kind of able to kind of form that relationship with the school and kind of move forward without us being in the middle. But yeah, if something came up, we could certainly help. They'd need to ask us and say that's okay. Sure.
And I know, Dr. Fitzgerald, you are communicating with the school system about the program, so they're also pushing the promotion through there
Yep.
as well, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your
Thanks
time.
for
Thank you.
coming out.
We're going to leave if anyone's interested, we're going to leave the sign-up sheet here. What we like about this is.
Sophie, I'm sorry. If you're going to talk about it, do me a favor, come up to the mic. Come on up here so that people can hear you. The reason is we actually have remote participants watching the live stream, so they won't benefit if they don't hear you on the mic. Just tell us your name. Your name.
My name is Sophia Brown. If you guys, or if you know anyone who's interested, we're going to leave the sign-up sheet. Please just, sign your name, put in your phone number. The nice thing about this, thank you all for giving me a cell phone. Some people, they don't want to put it out there publicly, so sometimes they'll just send me an email or send me a text, and then I'm able to discreetly kind of work with them that way until they become more comfortable, and then we can get them in the program. So
Wonderful.
we're going to just leave this there.
Thank you, Sophia. And if anybody's out there watching the meeting and they can't see something or they have a question, you can reach out to any town council member here, and we'll be happy to be a liaison and help you get connected. Okay, We are still in councilperson communications. Before we move it on to item B, maybe should just open it up for general councilperson communications, because we have some items that are scheduled under councilperson communications that are a little bit more meaty. So is everybody okay if we just open it up maybe for general comments about other non-scheduled things? Okay, the floor is open. Is anybody looking for communications?
A
Mike?
couple things, Mr. Chair. Wednesday morning at the Plantsville 9/11 Memorial, there's a service. I've been since its inception. It's a wonderful event. It starts, I believe, right at 8:37, but get there around 8 o'clock so you can see the opening of it. It's a wonderful event. It's well received. Lots of law enforcement personnel and fire personnel are there. So we would like as much of the public to come out as possible for that. It's Wednesday morning, 9/11, at 8 o'clock at the 9/11 Memorial in downtown Plantsville. And then on Sunday, there is a run/walk at Hawks Landing to honor first responders and veterans. It's been advertised throughout social media. I advertised it a couple of times on my page. So if anyone's available to go out and check it out, it should be a nice event to honor first responders. They're still, I believe, taking applicants if you want to walk or run the course. It's on the golf course there, actually, so you could run and walk, and it's a nice event. It's the first time, I shouldn't say it's a nice event, because it's the first time they're having it, but I know they do good stuff up at Hawks Landing, and they're going to be honoring some veterans, and my dad is going to be honored as one of the veterans, so I'm really looking forward to that. So if you guys are available, I know Sundays are weekends are very busy for all of us, but if you're available, come on up and check it up at Hawks Landing.
And the American Legion is also joining, for some opening ceremony activity as well at the same event. Okay. Others? Jen?
Yep, so I just wanted to kind of shine a light on our calendar house, because we don't think of it this way, but I've been learning a lot about, it's a bevy of activity, in case you did not know. So just a couple of events this month. 9/16, there's a lung cancer lunch and learn with the Hartford Healthcare and the Pines of Bristol, so it's 12:30 to 1:30, and if you're interested, you do need to register. And then they also have their John E. DeMello Veteran Coffee Hour on the 20th of September. That's 9:30 to 10:30, and you do not have to register. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Councilwoman Clark, Chris?
Actually, I wasn't going to say anything about this, but you reminded me, Jen. The Calendar House lunch program, I mentioned this at the last meeting, they did expand that. They in the past have had a cap the limit of seniors who can participate in the lunch program, so that has been lifted, at least for this month. So seniors, if you're interested, you can attend the lunch program at the Calendar House. If I could, I'd like to make a motion to add a couple items to the agenda. So if I could add under new business, item B, number 3, an appointment to the SHS Roof Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the appointment of new business item B3, appointment to SHS Roof Committee? Discussions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, motion passes to add the agenda item.
Okay, I have another agenda item, same area under new business, item B. Item 4 will be the Apple Harvest Festival Committee. Make a motion to add an appointment to that committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes to add item 4.
Okay, and then I have one good news item to share with the community. On next Thursday, September 19th, at Southington High School at 6 p.m. in the auditorium will be the SHS Wall of Honor ceremony. If you're not familiar with that, each year we recognize graduates from Southington High School that have made notable contributions in the community or beyond. So this year, we have several honorees. We're honoring Aaron Pelletier, the Southington State Police officer who was recently killed in the line of duty. To my right, we're honoring Val DiPaolo, who's a town council member and former star athlete and local attorney, graduated from Southington High School. Dr. Mark Palmieri, the co-director of the Center for Children with Special Needs and assistant professor of psychology at Yale. Ken DeMoro, our first town historian, and advocate for local historical preservations, and Norman Van Coor, who's the recipient of the Navy Cross for his heroism during the Vietnam conflict. So again, that ceremony is September 19th, 6 p.m. at Southington High School in the auditorium.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Jack, did you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So two quick things. I guess question to the town manager. Any update on Hart Street for what the cost has been for the repavement and closing it and all that?
We're still waiting on the final figures for the police detail. We do have a bill from Tilcon, however, it's mixed in with the overall paving that we did this past season. So Mr. Capone back there is working with our highway superintendent to break apart those numbers and actually pull them out. They're auditing them right now to make sure what we were charged is what we actually received is for yardage. So we're still waiting on the paving numbers to come through. We're waiting on the final police to come through. I do have the number for the liner of the pipe that was done. That was just north of $130,000 for the liner itself.
Okay, whenever that's all available, if you could send it, I'm guessing the entire council would like to see it.
Absolutely.
What that is. Another thing that I spoke to the town manager about, I had a few businesses downtown Southington discuss it with me. They put up no parking signs on North Liberty Street. So currently, there's 5-6 spots there, and I know that, again, restaurants and businesses in the downtown area, they need parking. So I know he's, I guess looking into it. I guess it's more of a formality, and I guess the police chief does it, but I'm very concerned on, the parking for the downtown area for the businesses.
So a request came from a member of the parking authority to the police department. They had concerns over the width of North Liberty Street. That went to Officer Schneider, who is our traffic liaison. He recommended to Chief Daly, who is our local traffic authority, that it would be appropriate to put the no parking signs up there. I did reach out to Chief Daly. I asked him, and he said he still agreed with that. So at this point, he's the ultimate traffic authority. If you want, I can get you over to the police commission if you want to speak with them and address it. But at this point, Chief Daly is the ultimate authority on that.
Okay, so I guess I'll follow up with that. I'm just curious on, again, what the process is of the parking authority at that point. I looked online, they haven't had a meeting in months. So again, I think, again, if it went through a meeting process, and, I think if it did, it would have probably stimulated conversations with the downtown businesses and try to come up with an alternative. I know there was a sign that said no parking from here to corner because it's tough, but there's, I'm guessing, 5 to 6 spots, which is, I think, crucial in that area, and that's the feedback I've gotten from several businesses. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how, the parking authority is supposed to be and what the right channel is, because nobody knew this was happening.
It was my understanding it came directly from a member, not during a meeting to the police department, so not through an official meeting, just a concern that someone from the parking authority had.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Tony?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Just a quick thing. At the last meeting, when I talked about the sewer committee, I mentioned an item that Athena Healthcare, that owns the summit right now, owes us $129,000 as a sewer bill. And I've been trying to get hold of them for a while. And eventually did manage to get hold of them after the last meeting. And the situation is that they are in the process of selling 5 of their nursing homes, their capabilities, to another healthcare company, a reputation, by the way. And they're going to consummate this deal this week, they think, which means that at the closing, all bills will be handled, which means we'll get every single bill that Southington has from Athena Healthcare will be paid. And it's not just the sewer bill, by the way. It's also personal property. It's also the water bill. And it's probably about $150,000 when all is said and done. So we'll be getting that this week or next week, whenever the closing is, and that issue will be settled. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Morrison. That's wonderful news. Glad to hear the follow-up is paying off. Thank you. Okay, anybody else on councilperson communications? All good? Okay, hearing none, I just wanted to give a shout out. I did receive some information from a constituent who informed me of some really good news. We have 2 residents here in Southington who attend some nearby universities, and both of them, Dante Diamore and Devin Bade. Just a congratulations to the both of you. They both made the New England College Baseball All-Star Game, and also qualified and made the All New England College Baseball team at the end of the season. So a nice accomplishment for the hard work for 2 students who grew up in Southington and are playing ball at the College League. Dante Diamore and Devin Bade, congrats. Okay, we're going to move on to item B, Reworld Resolution. I'll ask Tony and Val to introduce that. And before you start that, I just want to say thank you, because there was a few different co-sponsor activities on some resolutions and ordinances. And so throughout the meeting, we'll hear about those. And Tony and Val will start us off.
Go ahead.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, as you probably all remember from last meeting, a large chunk of that was devoted to the issue of the Reworld facility in Bristol. They're asking DEEP, through a permit process, to be allowed to incinerate up to 57 tons per day of biomedical waste at its facility. And there's been a lot of stuff in the press, there's a lot of stuff on social media, and we, at the last meeting, we heard from experts, and we heard from residents as well, ones who lived close to that facility and have been affected by it in the past. And we thought it was best to send a resolution to DEEP, and by the way, DEEP is the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, which is handling the permit process, and to the DPH as well, the Department of Healthcare, Connecticut. So, what we did in the resolution was to stress that we were against this, especially in the way it is, the way it's been formulated now. And I won't read the whole resolution, but I will just read the elements that we were against. One is the incineration of BMW, which is biomedical waste. It poses, potential public health risks due to the release of hazardous pollutants, which affect air quality and potentially overall health of residents. The transportation we also had a problem with, in the sense, as we know, Southington has highways, especially I-84, that will transport some of this waste. We're worried about traffic accidents and what happens then if there's potential hazards from those accidents. We're worried about the health and safety of emergency responders, obviously in our town, but also other towns, who may be called upon to manage these incidents. We have concerns about the impact of the associated traffic. We have concerns about, and this is a real serious one, about the lack of continuous emissions monitoring in the Reworld facility. DEEP doesn't even have it in the permit process, but we think that's essential, because we're dealing with pretty serious hazardous elements here, dioxins, furans, heavy metals. So also, we've noticed, because it's been an issue here too, our residents have lodged many complaints with Reworld about the noise emitted from Reworld's current operation. And we think this issue should be eliminated before you start examining any other options of using that facility. So I'll just read those are the issues. I'll just read what we said that we would resolve for the record. That the Southington Town Council, on behalf of the residents of Southington, hereby oppose the collection and incineration of biomedical waste at the Reworld facility. Be it further resolved, the Southington Town Council urges Connecticut DEEP and the Connecticut Department of Public Health, or DPH, as I mentioned, to conduct a thorough review of the potential health and safety risks associated with this proposal, including the implementation of continuous emissions monitoring, and to take necessary actions to protect the residents of Southington as well as the surrounding communities. And finally, be it resolved that the Southington Town Council calls upon DEEP and DPH to engage with local stakeholders, including the town of Southington, in assessing the full negative impacts of the proposed incineration, and to consider alternative waste management solutions that do not compromise public health, safety, or the environment. Val, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it well. I just wanted to say, thank you for working, that we were able to work together on this, and our caucus felt good about, the resolution, and good that it's going to be unanimous from the full council.
That's wonderful.
Thanks, Val.
Appreciate the both of you working together and the entire council reviewing the document through the caucuses. Thanks for spearheading that. When later in the meeting, Mr. Town Attorney, because it's a resolution, can you just advise us, do we need to read the resolution into the record, or is it enough to have the document in writing and then in the record?
Have the document in writing.
Okay, cool. Good. So we don't need to read the full thing into the record, but anybody later on, after the meeting, if it gets adopted, whether it gets adopted or not, it'll be in the meeting minutes. Any other discussions or comments on that?
Just one other comment, if it's very timely, and Tony mentioned this. At the last meeting, we talked especially about how they haven't addressed initial concerns, specifically with the noise complaints in Bristol, and yet here they are moving forward with all these other issues. So the town manager shared with us communication today that the health director, Marco Palmieri in Bristol, formerly of our health department, is officially going after the ReWorld for violation of those complaints. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and it's important the public knows too that the city of Bristol is taking action against the lack of attention to details for the noise complaints over there.
And thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. I did have an opportunity to speak with the director of our health district. She gave me a call over the weekend, and we spoke then a little bit about the noise complaint and the efforts that she's working on. And I'll say I'm very happy to hear that she's diligently in regular communication with DEP and DPH and Bristol to work through this and try to seek remedies for the noise issue. She did indicate to me that there was a study done. There is a study that has been published in the application for the violation. So for those who are interested in seeing the study, it's all FOIable in the application that was made for the violation for ReWorld. And they're confident in the results that they got and where the noise is coming from. And they do plan to take it to court if necessary, and they fully expect that that's where it's going to have to get resolved. So the Southington Health District, or the health district that Southington is part of, is actively pursuing that, and we're thankful for the health director and the entire committee that's working on that. Also, on behalf of the entire town council, Chris and I, as the chair and the minority leader, we have also inked a letter to go along with the resolution that we are sending to the department, to DEEP. Did you want to read it, Chris, in its entirety, or do you want to just submit it into the record?
To you.
Yeah, we'll read it. It says, Dear DEP Commissioner and stakeholders, we write to you today on behalf of the entire Southington Town Council. Many very concerned residents of our community have made their voices heard in an overwhelming outcry through various outlets against ReWorld Bristol's Inc.'s application to burn biomedical waste at their Bristol facility. We respectfully and urgently request the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to deny this application. Our town council is troubled by the significant risks that this proposal presents to public health and safety. The incineration of biomedical waste is a process fraught with particularly due to the potential release of hazardous pollutants into the air we breathe. The citizens of Southington who live in close proximity to Bristol are justifiably alarmed by the impact this could have on air quality. This may cause negative impact on workers, emergency responders, transportation, and traffic. The thought of any harmful toxins such as dioxins, furans, and heavy metals potentially being emitted from this facility, coupled with the facility's inability to real-time monitor such toxins drifting into our neighborhoods, is simply unacceptable and not worthy any small revenues any of our communities may realize as a result. The potential for ReWorld employees to be exposed to those toxins during the incineration process further exacerbates our concerns for those employees' well-being and their contact with others. These employees could unwittingly become carriers of harmful substances, potentially transmitting viruses to other hazardous materials to our community and beyond. This scenario is not merely theoretical, it poses a real and significant threat to the health and safety of every resident in Southington and neighboring areas. Adding to our alarm is the fact that ReWorld currently lacks continuous emissions monitoring capabilities, as previously alluded to. Without this essential technology, there is no reliable way to ensure that pollutants remain within safe and regulated limits at all times. This lack of oversight is a glaring deficiency, and it undermines any assurances that ReWorld might offer regarding the safety of their operations. Our community cannot and will not accept the risk of unknown quantities of dangerous toxins being released into our environment without immediate direction and rectification. Furthermore, it is imperative that DEP consider ReWorld's track record, which has been marred by longstanding and unresolved complaints from our residents regarding noise pollution. The incessant noise from ReWorld's operation has had a horrific impact on the quality of life in Southington, disrupting the peace and well-being of our community. The company's failure to address this issue speaks volumes about their disregard for the concerns of those who live near their facility. It is simply unthinkable to consider expanding their operations when they have yet to demonstrate being a responsible and considerate neighbor and rectify the violation. Once again, we strongly urge the DEP to reject this application in its entirety. The risks to public health, the potential for environmental contamination, and the ongoing negative impact on our residents' quality of life cannot be ignored. This letter is accompanied by a formal resolution from the Southington Town Council dated September 9, 2024, which unequivocally stands against ReWorld's application to incinerate biomedical waste. The health, safety, and well-being of our residents depends on your decision, and it's signed by myself and Minority Leader Paul Marai. Okay, we'll put that into the record. Okay, any other discussions on ReWorld? Item C, updated property tax exemption for 100% disabled veterans. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have our excellent Director of Assessment and Taxation, Teresa Babin, who's going to give a quick update and highlight an issue that Attorney Martascia will present later on in this meeting.
Did you say excellence in taxation?
Excellence in taxation and assessment.
Pretty cool. That's all right.
Teresa, thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everybody. I don't even know how far back to go, but I'm just going to jump into the middle, I guess, and say that currently Southington has 75 definite, 100% permanently, totally disabled veterans in town. Currently, those veterans receive, it's on a sliding scale, but the veterans per state statute get $21,000 in assessment benefit. What the new language says is that instead of it just being flat amounts according to the sliding scale, the 100% permanently, totally, I'm going to say P&T. The 100% P&T veteran will now enjoy a benefit equal to the amount of the assessment on their dwelling. So what for some of these disabled vets was a $21,000 exemption, we're finding that now the exemption is going to be as much as, I think the highest one we have is like $280,000. That's just for one veteran. So what we have in addition to the state mandated portion of this is a local assessment exemption that the town passed in 2003, per state statute enabling legislation to allow an additional $10,000 assessment exemption if these veterans fell underneath an income threshold. So the new language that says they're going to get their dwelling exempted doesn't speak to the local aspect of the benefits for the veterans. So my question was, are we going for the veterans that are now getting, a $280,000 exemption, are we still, if they fall within that income limit, are we still going to give them an additional $10,000 on top of that? So that's what generated this whole conversation, because I didn't know. So I just asked for some clarification.
And Mr. Chairman, a 100% disabled veteran gets, typically with dependents, over $5,000 a month from the VA, and that's tax-free, and it's not included in their income calculation. So while they may be making over $70,000 of tax-free, quote-unquote, income a year on top of any other benefits, or they can still work at 100% disability. They can still work the job. If they're not, they'd be showing as a lower income and get those higher sliding scales, but they could be well off generating over $100,000 a year in income, and a lot of that being tax-free income. As a disabled veteran myself, I can tell you that just because you're 100% disabled doesn't mean that you don't have any worth and you can't live. This is a great program the state put in place, but with the local exemption on top of it, it really exasperates. It's almost giving out just free taxes for anybody who has 100% disability.
So what we have here, though, is an ordinance revision, correct? And the ordinance revision basically says that the existing Southington ordinance, if the town council wanted to take this up and pass it, says that it would exclude those who qualify under the new Public Act 2446 and receive a greater benefit from the said state legislation. So in other words, that if they receive a greater benefit from the state legislation, then they would get the state legislation instead of the Southington one. If for some reason they received a greater benefit from the Southington ordinance, they could keep the Southington tax exemption.
And that's accurate. Mrs. Babin's here to explain the background of it and the current state of Connecticut changes. Attorney Martaccio has a proposed ordinance that I'm introducing in his report to deal with the situation.
Mr. Chair, could you just repeat what you said, though, before? I want to make sure I heard it right.
Right. The exemption states, excluded are those who qualify under Public Act number 24-46 and receive a greater benefit from said state legislation.
Okay, all right.
Perfect. Which I guess will be talked about later.
That's in the proposed
Later on. Yep.
ordinance, right, okay.
Okay, Chris?
Teresa, first of all, thank you. I thank you for your communication today. That really helped
Sure.
prepare for tonight, and I appreciate it. When you mentioned, and I see it here, this was the veterans property tax exemption was originally added in 2003. Do you remember what changes were made in 2015? Because it was amended October 13th, 2015. Was it a greater amount, or?
I think we raised the income threshold.
Okay.
And that was just a one-time step up. And then, so I think, is it in '22 it was
And then
amended
in
again?
January 24.
Then we kind of, we got wise, and we decided to tie the income threshold increase to the cost of living adjustment from Social Security, so that those veterans that once qualified for that exemption could still qualify for it even as their Social Security benefit increased.
Okay. And if you don't mind, I'm going to even reference what you sent me, because I think this really clearly explained it. So currently, our local ordinance provides an additional $10,000 assessment, which is what's before us, to those disabled vets that are receiving $10,500 to $21,000 via the state program and fall under the income threshold. But instead, they could receive $24,720 to $166,800 in assessment benefits. Therefore, I think that's why we're looking to sunset, I guess, the $10,000 if they're receiving potentially $100,000
Right.
more than what they currently can receive from the state.
Right.
Is that?
Yeah, and
fairly
also, if we kept that $10,000, the only thing it would be able to be applied to would be land, and theoretically, we don't give exemptions on the land, except for like state programs like PA 490, enterprise zone abatements that we're offering, but generally speaking, it's never going to be on the land, it's always on the house.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Councilman Dezak.
Teresa, real quick, Chris, I think you and I actually served on that committee, right?
I think
And
so,
so I think
yeah.
what people have to understand is we let the veteran take whatever's best for them. So there's the state, this is just generally speaking, there's gonna be state exemptions that might be better in one scenario and worse in the other. And we wanna make sure that Southington is always giving the veteran the most benefits. That was kind of the policy from that meeting, and I think this really is just housekeeping to make sure that we're keeping up with the new law and still giving, a Southington disabled veteran the most they're entitled to under the law, whether it's a Southington benefit or the state benefit, we want them to get it.
Good. Any other comments or discussion? Questions for the Director
The
of...
excellent director.
Director of Excellence in Taxation? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 4, reports of special committees. Councilwoman Clark on technology.
Yes, so Technology Committee met last month, and if you recall, we provided a summary presentation back in February, and basically it outlined priorities based on stakeholder feedback, and I'm excited to announce that our new town manager has hit the ground running and implemented some of those suggestions. So again, it was identified as a high priority on our list, electronic time cards, and those have been implemented or in the process of being automated for a couple of our departments, sewer and highway. And so this is going to allow for efficiency, accountability, and cost savings for the manual entry that was being done to get these into the payroll system. So obviously more efficient, more accurate. So thank you to town staff for doing that. Some other items implemented were security cameras that have been installed and are running at the fire department and at town hall, and body cameras at the transfer station. So all of these things are going to allow for better security for our town staff, more efficient and cost-saving, mitigating any incidents and possible additional costs. So,
Excellent. Any questions on technology? There was a question from a resident today about are the ballot boxes at Town Hall, are they monitored by video surveillance? And the answer is yes. So if anybody's watching this and had an interest in that response, the answer is yes. The 2 ballot boxes at the Southington Town Hall do have cameras on them. Okay, item B, apple harvest. Councilman Palmieri.
Yes, we had a scheduled meeting for Wednesday, August 14th. Unfortunately, we could not officially meet. We didn't have a quorum, but I can give some updates, seeing as the festival's right around the corner. All booth space is booked up, which is great. We possibly have room for another 1, maybe 2 arts and craft vendors. You can reach out to Dave LaPrey, our recreation director, if you're interested. Revenue, we've collected $96,000, a little over $96,000 in booth fees. $12,300 for arts and crafts, and slightly over $48,000 for sponsorships. And the expenses at this point are minimal, just because the festival hasn't occurred yet. They're about $17,500 for the coordinator stipends and $12,000 and change for the sponsorship commission. We have a new beverage sponsor this year. This year we have Pepsi. We've had Coke for the past several years, so we're interested to see what Pepsi will bring to us this year. And just a shout out to Bizzuto's, who will once again provide their dream cooling trailer for the festival to use for the 2 weeks. I'd also just like to acknowledge, the next meeting I'll acknowledge some of the committee heads and the sponsors. But this meeting, if it's okay, I'd just like to acknowledge these are high school juniors and seniors that are serving as ambassadors for this year. Most of them are students at Southington High School, although there is one student that is not at Southington High School but is a Southington resident. So their names are Dean Abaza, Ethan Hoffman, Valeria Korstalova, Corey Kaczynski, Valeria Mendez, Julia O'Neill, Sean O'Sullivan, Gianna Pasquarel, Andrew Percival, Grace Percival, Callie Rosenzweig, Sophie Chagru, Emily Thompson, and Emma Thornton. And finally, we are still very actively looking for volunteers for the festival. Specifically, what we need the volunteers to do is man the beverage booths. That is a source of revenue for the town. We don't charge our vendors anything. They make what they make. So selling beverages is a way that we raise money back for the town. So if you're interested in volunteering in the beverage booth, again, contact Dave LaPrey, who's our festival coordinator.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions on apple harvest? It's getting close.
Yeah. It's getting real.
Okay, and you're backing it up, Chris, with item C, SHS roof replacement.
Okay, we met on Tuesday, August 20th. I'll read some highlights from that time, and then I can give you updates since then. So at that time, which was August 20th, we were 95% complete with the roof project, and at that point, we were 26% under budget. Obviously, since then, school has started. We are now 100% complete with the project. There were some change orders approved, and one was for $13,800 for the necessary architectural and structural design required by the state, and this is specific for the solar portion of the project that we're trying to add on. We're trying to add those solar projects as often as we can in town. And there was also a change order for $80,000 and change, and that was for the cost to remove and replace a portion of the roof over the freshman cafeteria, which is in the back of the building facing the fields, that was not included in the original drawing. So we did make that change order and get that complete before school began. So with that, very, very pleased to report the budget for the project was $6.9 million. The roof portion, which is complete, was roughly $2.2 million, and the anticipated solar budget is $2.8 million. So that means we're roughly under budget by approximately $1.8 million. So love those projects when we're under budget like that and completed on time.
Absolutely. Are we buying these solar panels outright, Chris?
I'm not sure about that, actually. I can look into that.
Or are they going through the lease program that we had with the other ones?
I think
Be interested to know.
I think they're purchased, but I'm not sure. Do you know, Alex?
It's the same program we've done for all the other schools where we lease our space to the company.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? SHS roof? Okay, moving on to item D, transportation. Councilman Morrison.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the last meeting, we started looking at all kinds of stakeholders in town, which there's really two types. One is the people who provide transportation, and then there's the people who will benefit from transportation. So we're listening to both of those, and we've got a structured program in place where we ask people to come and articulate what they need or what they provide in a sort of a format that we provide them. So everybody, gives us the same feedback. Gives us their feedback in the same format. So I just read the 5 things that we ask people to use as a format. Very quickly, describe the service you provide and your customer base, numbers, socioeconomic profiles. Do your customers require local transportation services? If so, which ones? And we gave them a few: Calendar House bus, the public bus, Uber, non-profit, etc., etc. 3, does your service require paratransit transport? If so, how is this provided currently? Number 4, how could your organization improve your service with better or different transport options, if available? And finally, 5 is the miscellaneous, any other information that we need to know. So far we've heard from a few. We will probably spend the next 2 meetings hearing from quite a few others. And there'll be names that you recognize from town: Bread for Life, Southington Community Services, the ARC, Southington Housing Authority. And that will be the work at least for the next 2 meetings. And the last 2 meetings we've had some of that already. At the last meeting, we also discussed, do we need another survey, a survey of people in town that we can rely on for at least some kind of extra information as well that we can start providing solutions on? And it was decided that we would use current stakeholders that require transportation, and such as Bread for Life, who presented at the last meeting, and they would essentially dispense a survey to their customer base, which would then, they would give back to us, and we would look at those and assess all those, as give us a real sense of what the community needs. And that's our work.
Excellent. Any questions on transportation? Okay, hearing none, moving on to item E, Public Works.
Thank you,
Del
Mr.
Santo.
Chair. Yeah, we had our meeting on Wednesday, September 4th. A couple of items of note. Chief Daley reported that they installed some digital speed limit signs on Bellevue Avenue, and they repaired the digital speed limit signs on Witcher Street, so those are all operational. I know some neighbors in the Bellevue area were very happy that those were installed, because it's kind of a straightaway, and some folks take some luxury in going a little faster, so it's good for that area. The bulky waste transfer stations, they're averaging around 550 cars each day that they're open. This past Saturday was after a week that the transfer station was closed, so it was probably a little more. And they are now sending a couple of workers first thing in the morning on Saturday to go downtown and pick up the trash. Some of the people that are assigned to the transfer station, their first hour is going down to Southington and picking up the trash from the Friday night dinner crowd to make sure that the downtown area is looking good, make sure there's no trash thrown about. Road projects, Mr. LaPrade reported that the Cape Salem pavement was complete as of 8/30/24. Line striping was 90% complete, and crack sealing is being done over the next few weeks. It'll start in mid-September and finish probably at the end of the month or early October. Leaf bids and snow bids, dare I say it, are going out now. The advertising deadlines for those will be up on the site soon. And there's going to be some fall paving for a couple of roads, primarily Oak Street, Academy Street, and Merrill Avenue, because there was some Eversource construction going on when they were supposed to be done, so those will be done in the fall. A couple of updates on the pools. Recreation Park Pool had their last day yesterday, so they're going to get in there and fix the floor that had some slippery areas. So they'll make sure that that's done before next season's opening. And Plantsville safety improvements, Mr. Capone reported that they're approximately 60% done. They kind of peeled off a little during the beginning of school. They didn't want to have too many detours with the buses, just to make sure that school started off pleasantly without too many detours. I got a phone call, from a constituent who resides in the Grove Park area. There's a detour most of the days that send folks to that four-way stop on Grove Street. And we need to remind everyone that that's a four-way stop. He sent me a short video of like a minute, and everyone is just ripping through that neighborhood. There are children there, so if everyone's going through that neighborhood, if you can, please stop at those stop signs. There are stop signs. I spoke with the chief about it, and the chief sent some folks down there just to make sure that people are obeying the stop signs. We're talking about the trail now. Mr. Capone reported that the project is complete except for a kiosk installation near Aircraft Road. This is from Lazy Lane to Aircraft Road, sorry. The original completion date was 7/29, but they're waiting for some change orders by the Connecticut DOT. Once again, about safety, a constituent contacted me about stop signs on the trail, so folks that are on the trail to ensure that they're stopping before they're ripping across Spring Street. It's a very busy road, so there are stop signs up, so even though pedestrians are being yielded to by drivers, it's still not fair for folks that are on the trail to just rip right through without stopping. So we're asking that everyone that is on the trail, especially for Lazy Lane and Spring Street, that they're making sure they stop and looking both ways before they cross Spring Street especially. Okay, we had a presentation for the Marion Avenue Bridge. We had a couple of people come out that had some concerns about what was happening with that. There's going to be a public input session online, I believe, in the next couple of weeks. So I'll, obviously at the next meeting I can report on that, but that's in the beginning stages. I think that just about covers it. I'm not sure if Mr. Perry or Mr. Morelli have anything to add in the meeting.
Mr. Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So question for the town manager, for the snow bids and the leaf bids, are we utilizing
Planet bids.
Planet bids, perfect. So now, is it gonna just be Planet bids, or can people still get a document and drop it off?
We're still utilizing everything. I had a bid come in paper on an envelope Friday afternoon, and I asked the gentleman, who was a temporary work bid for the leaf pickup, and I said, did you know this is on Planet Bids? And he said, I did. And he came from East Hartford, and I said, did you look into registering and doing on Planet Bids? He said, I didn't even know you can do that. So I think there's a little bit more outreach we have to do, because he was upset that he wasted an hour and a half of his day driving back and forth to hand me an envelope and get it stamped, when he could have just spent 5 minutes registering, putting his bid in, and saved the afternoon. So we're still pushing it out. Everybody comes in. I encourage them to use Planet Bids, but we are getting a lot of people. You can see who's registered, potential bidders, so there's a lot more transparency to the public, and if anybody wants to see who's looking at the bids as they're coming in.
Perfect. Yeah, so I guess somebody that's done a lot of bidding with a lot of municipalities, even when they were online, you were never really able to submit them via online or fax or anything, but now with Planet Bids, I'm guessing with technology and everything being secure, I think, again, if we could communicate that with our contractors, that'd be great, and explain to them that it's still sealed until that time, and it's not like, you know, we get to see the numbers prior. That was one, and then follow up on Lazy Lane. At Public Works, we talked about the trail crossing there, and there is stop signs, and I even made sure that, you know, the old section had the stop signs as well. I think there may need, I think maybe some signage, you know, maybe reach out to the police chief, see what his thoughts are, maybe some signage saying, hey, look, you know, this is now open. I see that they sketched where the hash lines will be for the crossing and all that, but, you know, with the truck traffic up and down and just the normal traffic of vehicles, I just, you know, coming down that hill, people are popping out, you know, the woods, and they're not fully stopping, and I just don't want to see anybody get hit there.
I'd like to say that I think we have to investigate that further. You know, what the chief did raise to us in the previous meeting, the visibility and the sight lines at that intersection, and the weeds are still there. So we never determined who's responsible to clear that out, but at some point, it's got to get cleared. So I agree. I think we'll have more discussions in Public Works on how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah, just because it's new, and it seems like a lot of people are using that trail, which is good. Every time I drive by there, I'm crawling to it because there's always somebody crossing, which is good, but I'm just concerned with the amount of vehicles that go up and down Lazy Lane, because it is a cut-through corridor between West Street and
And you know, Jim, there's a lot of people from out of town that are using that, not familiar with the trail, and they might go flying right through there, so.
And coming down that hill, you know.
No time.
Yeah, and it's a straight shot, so it's not like people are slowing down.
Yeah.
So this was maybe a good Public Works review, and maybe, Mr. Town Manager, if you can take a note. Maybe, I know that we've had an initial assessment on this before they were open. It might be a good opportunity to relook at it, from both the pedestrian perspective, but also the vehicular. You know, we have stop signs at the others. If we're not gonna put stop signs here, I was looking at the, there is a trail guide, trail marking guide that the Connecticut Rails to Trails publishes that includes signage for the pedestrian, but also road signs for, as you approach the trail, there's markings on the ground that tell you something's up ahead. Not only the yellow signs, but there's squiggly lines that I've seen in some areas. There's hazard signs that you can see, that you could paint, and you know, those type of markings can alert a driver that they need to slow down before approaching the trail.
I really like what they're doing in downtown Plantsville, where it comes to a curve, so it doesn't just
90 degree.
continue like a 90-degree, but that's, you know, that could be costly as well, so.
Well, and the flashing, I was gonna say the flashing lights are very effective, so.
They are, but yeah, once again, though, I don't think we can do that at every crossing.
intersection, right.
But something to look at. We'll definitely add that to the next Public Works meeting and have a stronger discussion upon it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, for raising that. Safety is, should be paramount, and we can't do enough to review that. Any other questions on Public Works? There's been so much chatter about roads, Mike. Can you just,
Yeah,
I know that
sure.
we're done paving now for the season because the paving season is done and the funds are over.
Yep.
It's important that people know that we have a referendum coming up, so maybe you could talk about that.
Sure.
And talk about, you know, how, you know, there was a 2022 list for pavement condition and how we're relooking at that.
Right. So we use a company that goes out and monitors the roads and gives us a score for each road. And during the Public Works meeting, we took a long time talking about paving. We took, about roads. And, some scores are higher than others and some scores are lower than others. And there are total rip-ups and then there are cape sealing. And so I think the biggest problem is that there's not a lot of education out there for the public to understand. A lot of the comments were, well, how come my road hasn't been done yet, but they're doing a small patch on Pleasant Street? So I was trying to explain that their road was a total rip-up, and their score was higher than some of the roads that we did this past year for the rip-ups. But I did talk with Mr. Grappone and Mr. LaPrey about meeting again with Streetscape to kind of really dig deep into the scores that they're given for the road. So we're definitely going to take a look at that this fall. And then the main thing is we're going to get boots on the ground. We're going to send staff out to look at these roads to really have an impression of the scoring capabilities. Companies are companies, but if you get your eyes out there and know that, there may be additional potholes or bad sewers in certain roads, some of those scores, we may be able to convince them that this may need a higher or a lower score, essentially. We typically ask for $10 million every 4 years. This council approved $15 million for the next referendum question, which is this year. Not this year, sorry, this year, sorry, yes, for this on the ballot this year, so we're hoping that the public approves that. Listen, I would love to get $50 million and do them all, but that's just not going to happen. Inflation's a big thing. We don't get as much bang for the buck, as it were, from a few years ago, so that $5 million additional is going to be very helpful. And we try to do all of our paving in between school getting out and school going back in, so it's a small window for us to get things done. So I understand people are frustrated. I understand that there's a lot of questions. So once again, we're going to also talk about putting more information on the Southington website to help people better understand. The chair and I have worked on an Excel spreadsheet, so you can go in and plug your road in and find out exactly what the score is and when eventually their road may be paved. So more to follow. We're definitely on top of it. Definitely want to meet with them, and we'll have the roads that are going to be done for 2025 much, much earlier than we did this past year.
And if everybody remembers the discussion from the Director of Public Works at the time, earlier this year, she had come out and explained to us that there was going to be a balance this year in an effort to try to kind of catch up or mitigate some of the mid-level roads from deteriorating to being the bad roads. There was going to be a Cape Seal on a large number of mileage of those, while we also worked on some of the really bad roads. And the hope is that you do that for 2 or 3 years, and you prevent the moderately deteriorating roads from deteriorating terribly while you work on the bad ones. And then that will hopefully catch us up in a few years. And the other thing to just mention is that the boots on the ground is not necessarily meant to dispute the scan. The scan was done in 2022. So roads are dynamic, right? And they deteriorate over time, and they deteriorate at different rates. So a scan done in 2022 doesn't necessarily mean that's the same value today, or that it's relative to the one that was next to it 2 years ago. One could have deteriorated faster than the other. So the boots on the ground are needed to validate really where we are today, because otherwise you spend $80,000 a year to scan every single year.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, the street scan, I would love to get more info on that, just because I do remember Annette mentioning that some of the scores increased, from one scan to the other, and it's like we all know roads aren't getting any better. They're only getting worse. So I had a constituent reach out as well, and they were concerned of, there was, favors or people that were taken care of prior to others. I reassured them, no, that's not the case. I think, the engineering department's going to get us that list sooner to Public Works, which I think will help, because this year up where I live, Andrew Street was done. I reached out to the town manager, and it was too late by the time I saw that it was happening in that area. I didn't think it needed it, but it ended up going through, so I got to see how Cape Seal was done. challenge of getting home through the chip seal and then seeing how fast they
Next
actually
day.
did it. It was perfect.
Quick, yeah.
So that was the one positive of me driving that area. I got to see the whole process and live it, I guess. So the Cape Seal, I feel very confident in, and I would love to even maybe try seeing how low of a scoring road we can do that, because it just, that road, I think a resident reached out, that water now is coming off onto their property, so they had to put up curbing, because the water's shedding, because the road is super smooth now.
Yeah. And I think, the Andrew Street was one of the moderately deteriorating. It wasn't the worst, so they were trying to prevent it from. So the question is, I think that if I recall, the PCI index that was in the packet in our meeting minutes said it was a PCI of 55 or 60 and above could get Cape Seal. Anything below 60 had to be either a 4-inch depth, a 2-inch depth, or a complete tear up and rebuild. But yeah, it sounds like a topic that
We're on it.
you guys will be taking up in the next few meetings.
The only other thing I could say about it is it was kind of weird that when you get to the top of Woodruff Street, I'm drawing a blank, the other side street, once you take a left, from that, small distance, which was, one house length, so you're talking 100 feet, maybe 50 feet, wasn't paved or redone. So it's like they stopped and then left 50 feet and started again, which I just don't, over time, that's gonna become I think, a problemed area. And it's more prep work, it looked like, for how they did it. So I think, again, us getting that list sooner, and reviewing it will be very helpful. And, that list does get confusing because it uses cross streets, start here and there, and you're kind of jogging back and forth. So once I think we get those streets, I think we can maybe, simplify that list maybe a little bit better of what we're doing this year.
And put it out there earlier, because there's a lot of people in the community too, right? I mean, they'll tell us if something looks crooked, then we can relook at it.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Grappone, our interim town engineer, who is in the audience, is already working on next year's list. He's assured me he wants it to be a very straightforward, where he brings his recommendations to the Public Works Committee, and the Public Works Committee gets pictures, they get visuals. He's still gonna be the person who makes that decision because it cannot be a political decision. But he's gonna solicit feedback from the Public Works Committee. This way, before the list is finalized, he can go back and address any concerns that the committee has, and the public who comes and speaks has at the same time. And those lists will be publicly posted on Facebook, not just the Southington.org to push them out way earlier. We're still gonna get a lot of comments and concerns about them, but at least we'll be able to address all of them before the list is finalized, at least the ones that come in before the list is finalized.
Thank you.
I think town managers answer my question, actually, because I wanted to know, if you have boots on the ground and we have, a streetscape, one of the beauties of streetscape is it's objective, right? It can be shown to be objective to our community. But if as you said, there's a process by which it goes to Jim, and he makes sure that it continues to be objective. I'm okay with that. Because when you said boots on the ground, I was thinking, does that...
Yeah, I was absent the day they taught paving at paving school, so I don't know enough. So I have to depend on engineers and the companies and the programs that we use.
Yeah, the scan's only done once every 4 years, so
Yeah, I
somebody has
know,
to
I
validate
understand that, I
periodically, And if it's an expert in town staff and the staff of highway doing that, then that's perfect.
Cool.
Mr. Chair, one thing on that, it may be, if we're able to get that list sooner, finalize that, I wouldn't be opposed of, if we're scanning the roads every so many years and doing the bonding, maybe we, could then say, okay, it's not gonna be this year, but these streets will be the following year. So that then people know that, okay, your street is bad, we understand, but it's year 3 we're doing it and not year 1 or 2.
Yep, agree. At least put the priority list out, right, so that you know which ones are the worst to best, with an estimate of the years. It's gonna move a little bit depending on the price.
cost, yeah.
Sure, and the deterioration, so. Okay, the great discussion, thanks so much, and I'm super excited that you all are working so hard on this, because I know the community's passionate about it. We know that paving is super important, that's why we asked for 15 million this time. So between continuing to look at what the current priority is for the next couple of years, and getting increased funding, I know we're gonna make some headway on this, so thanks, everybody. Okay, Mr. Vice Chair, Library Building Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a meeting the same day on September 4th, and I'm happy to let you know that we are making huge progress there. We toured the library before the meeting. The ceilings are being installed, the paint's on all the walls, the bathrooms are tiled and grouted. The last thing will be flooring. The tile is going up on the outside, so you'll see now when you go down Main Street, if you look to the upper level, some of the beige tile is up to show the contrast with the color tile you see now. Everything is on schedule for the end of November, and we are very close to being in budget. So we actually could be under, or we could be a little bit over, depending on what we actually decide for some of the things we've been leaving out of the design until we get to the very end. So we have some contingency money that looks like we're gonna get it, which means we'll be able to add some more features that we were thinking we weren't gonna get in there. So all in all, it's looking really great.
Excellent. Any questions on library building? Okay, hearing none. Councilwoman Clark, open space.
Yep, so I have a few dates for as far as events, and then I have a big announcement towards the end, so just, just relax. Yes, so fall is very busy for us. This year we wanted to focus on our farm heritage in town. And because we have so many that work so hard throughout the year to make sure that our town has vegetables and fruits and meats and other produce, as well as everything they do to support our stores and restaurants and really the entire community. And our open space committee is partnering with the Barnes Museum to have some events. The first, we are highlighting the Leaf, and that is on September 28th from 12 to 2. Christina Volpe will be speaking, as well as Mark Ramsey and his aunt, so it's going to be really cool. So you have to register through the Barnes. Second is we're going to highlight Rogers Orchard and surrounding farms such as Carabin and Bradley Mountain, and that's on October 10th, and that will be at Rogers Orchard Longview Cider House from 6 to 7. So I'm really excited about these two events to celebrate our town's farm heritage. And in general for open space, we're gonna spend the next several months reviewing all that we've done to enhance our open space parcels this year. And my big announcement, and actually Jim Grappone is probably the one person in the room that can appreciate this. So this has been 7 years plus in the making, but we have finally installed the Curtis Farms educational storyboard. And visitors can go to the Curtis Farms open space parcel and follow the trail from the church parking lot, and you'll be greeted with a storyboard filled with information on the pro-abolitionist history of Carlos Curtis and the parcel where the root cellar is located. So, like I said, this has been a ton of work, many, many years in the making. It's been a project of mine that means so much to me, and I want to extend a huge thank you to Tom Curtis and all his support, Christina Volpe, our curator of the Barnes Museum, and Philip Wooding, our town historian. Thank you to Mark Lovely for funding the storyboard and making sure that this initiative was possible. And finally, to Southington, who I've fallen more and more in love with through the duration of this project. Thank you for being the city of progress. The storyboard is a testament to that history and truly an inspiration for generations to come. So that's my announcement.
Excellent, congratulations. Any questions?
Yeah, you can't diminish the names. Christina Volpe is just amazing. I mean, and Phil Wooding, for years and years and years, he knows everything about this town ins and outs, so good stuff, Jen.
Yeah, it was an honor working with both
Take a
of them.
bow.
And
Good
if
job.
anyone ever has a half hour or maybe closer to an hour to speak with them, it's just amazing listening to all the information they just have in their heads. So those two farm heritage events will be a good opportunity to do that, actually.
Excellent. Any other questions for open space? Awesome. Congratulations again, Jen. Thanks so much for the efforts. Item 5, Town Manager's Report and Communications. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item we have in front of you is the water pollution controls generator service recommendation for Mr. Perry, if you flip through the packet. This bid was submitted electronically, so it's one of the few that are coming in. Great results on it. There were 3 bids. The lowest cost and recommendation by Mr. Grappone and Mr. Williams was for A&J Generator out of Cheshire for the grand total of $10,975. If there's any questions, we're going to be looking for an approval on that contract.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Please.
I got one question for the town manager. Have we used A&J Generator in the past, or are they a new bidder and
We're
contractor?
new bidder, but we did get references from the Connecticut Federal Court System in Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, town of Stratford, the town of Orange as well, and they were all very happy with the references and the service.
Yeah, because it's percentage-wise a nice savings, so it's encouraging, or it's nice to see new potential bidders coming to town. So
And they're right
thank you.
next door, so I think that helps out their travel time.
Excellent. Any other questions on item A? If not, we'll move to item B.
Item B, Mr. Chairman, is again the Water Pollution Control's 2024 bid for our cameraing and inspections. Again, the Duke's Root Control is the recommended bidder for this time around, and they've been in town, they've been doing work for us for several years. They've been doing a good job, and they are the lowest bid again this time around. If there's any questions?
Questions for the manager? Okay.
The next one, I'm going to ask Mr. Grappone to come up and speak about. I would be lying to you if I could explain this in cognizant detail, so I'll ask Mr. Grappone to talk about the Mass Municipal Agreement for Rights-of-Way Projects.
Jim, thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. This is the Master Municipal Agreement for Right-of-Way Projects between the town and the DOT. It's required on any project with right-of-way participation being funded through or managed by DOT. The agreement was drafted by DOT in concert with the Attorney General's office. So it's been, over the years, been renewed, so I think the language is pretty much going to stick, so it's very hard to change the language if there's any comments or concerns on the agreement itself. DOT adopted the agreement to streamline projects for rights-of-way tasks. It outlines state and town responsibilities, and these responsibilities will be on a project-by-project basis. As I mentioned before, it has been executed before, and similar agreements have been executed for design and construction phases also. This is just for rights-of-way. The term of the agreement is 10 years or less if terminated earlier by either party. In it is addressed also the cost of condemnation. Generally speaking, with respect, once it's determined that there's a project and right-of-way is required for the project, the state enters into what's called a PAL, a project authorization letter, and in there it describes what each, both the town and the state are going to pay. On lots of projects, it's usually 100% funded by the state. On other programs such as Federal Local Bridge, it's 80-20, so the town pays 20%. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the town engineer?
Just a quick one, Mr. Chair. So, Jim, was the previous agreement a 10-year?
Yes.
As well? So
Yeah.
It's going to be...
It's going to expire soon. I forget what the date. It's in the
Yeah.
correspondence.
Looks like it expired. right?
Yeah, is it this month?
August 11.
Oh, last month,
24.
okay.
I mean, so it's going to be a pretty similar
Yep.
agreement.
Yes, and they were hoping by September 11th, sometime this week, that they would have action on it and a resolution.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for the town engineer? Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Item Charlie on my report, Mr. Chairman, is the Connecticut Deep Recreational Trails Program Resolution. This was requested by one of the members who's on the Trails program, and he's asking that we take part and adopt the Connecticut Deep program to get money towards, so Connecticut Recreational Trails Program has a pot of money, and we need to adopt into it to be able to get money for that, for our Greenway trails. And this is for the existing and hopefully for new trails as well.
And as a reminder for the council, these last two items are resolutions that are before us in our packet. So our vote is to authorize the town manager to sign we will agree to approve the resolution which authorizes the town manager to sign these contracts. Okay, any questions on,
I have a question.
on the Trails Program
Chair.
resolution? Yeah.
I have a question. So, Alex, is this for the Rails to Trails program only?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
All right, very good.
The Greenway.
Yep.
Any other questions? No, hearing none, we'll go to item E.
And finally, what you have in front of you was an updated application fee schedule for the Planning and Zoning Commission. This was unanimously adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their last meeting. Town staff, Mr. DeCarly, went through it, did a review of surrounding communities and used communities that had close to the same demographics and population size that Southington does. We haven't updated our fees in, I believe, 16 years, so it was time for a change. Again, this was fully adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission as a recommendation, but the town, it's on action for tonight for the town council to approve or reject the proposed fee changes, and they are all increases.
Excellent. Any question on the land use application fee schedule?
That concludes
Okay.
my report.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. We'll turn it over for item 6 to the Town Attorney. Item A, Disabled
Mr. Chair,
Veterans Proposal.
Actually, before we can begin with that, I wanted to update the council. Last meeting, Councilman Palmieri asked me or previous meeting, I should say, to provide a legal opinion about the liability and requirements of Eversource, in particular as it relates to the walkway and that public easement land. At last meeting, I was asked I'd please send a letter on behalf of the town. That was done last week. I wouldn't expect a response within a week's time, but I'm not going to get a response anyways. Nevertheless, we have dotted our i's and crossed our t's and did let them know that, you know, per Connecticut statute and case law, there is an obligation on their behalf to be treated the same as any other landowner or citizen within our town. With that said, I can move on to the 3 proposed ordinances. These matters are going to be scheduled, or a request of a public hearing in 2 weeks, but very briefly, I know it's already been discussed ad nauseum, the Disabled Veterans Proposed Ordinance, in particular, our excellent majesty of taxation. Yeah. The bottom line is, it's an either-or proposal, and as is often the case with the town of Southington, I have found, having lived in 5 different communities, that we tend to go out of our way to protect our citizens, as well as, in particular, veterans and those that put their lives on the line for the betterment of our community and our country. This proposed ordinance, which was introduced by the town manager, who is also a veteran and a disabled veteran, but not fully, just cognitively. It's an either or. I'm done with my punchlines. I apologize. I'm done, I promise. It's an either or. The town has, the citizen has the option, quite frankly, of reaping the benefits as per Connecticut general statutes, or avail themselves to the benefits of the town. It really was more of a closing of a loophole to avoid unintended consequence of benefiting financially where it was not intended to do so. So the ordinance itself has been, for the most part, kept the same. That's chapter 375 of the ordinance. I believe, or I know that it's on the agenda for a public hearing in 2 weeks from now. And again, we've discussed that a lot, but any questions with regard to that topic?
Any questions on the Disabled Veterans Proposed Ordinance?
Yes,
Item A.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yep, no.
Lou, so when we amend these ordinances, we don't amend the original dates.
The original, I'm sorry.
The original dates.
No, we don't.
Right,
It's,
so
uh,
it all just, so the only thing that will change is the new sentence.
On the bottom of section 1, or A.
Okay. So I guess the only thing I wanted to ask is, maybe for that sentence, can we say excluded are those veterans and their surviving spouses who qualify under Public Act, just to keep it consistent, so like, who, you know, because it says excluded are those.
Sure.
Just so those
I
is,
don't have a problem with adding surviving spouses as well, of course.
are those veterans and their surviving spouses?
Yeah, I have no
Would
problem
be
with that.
okay? As long as the council's okay with that.
Anything else?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, please, Mr. DeSanto.
So my only, and you did a great job explaining it, and as did Teresa, but I just want to make sure that the public knows that we're not taking anything away from the.
No, quite the opposite.
Right, right. I just want to make sure, and you really explained it really well, but I think we really need to get the word out there, because I don't want anyone to think that anyone's pulling a fast one here. They're going to get the benefit of the tax, and the state's program is more advantageous for them than the
One would
town's.
think,
Right.
but either way,
Exemption,
they can avail
sure.
themselves to either.
Yep, okay. I just want to make sure that we're
Right.
all very clear on that, and the public is
The
aware.
next ordinance, I think that the council is aware, have probably had 6 different drafts, and sort of piggybacking off what I said earlier, Southington being Southington, has attempted to make that ordinance, and I'm referring specifically to the Aaron Pelletier Public Service Surviving Spouse Line of Duty Tax Abatement Proposed Ordinance. Let's say that 3 times. The end of the day, the proposed ordinance was expanded to include as many individuals as the council thought appropriate, including school officials, town officials, the town manager, so on and so forth. I use the term very loosely, as in to say regrettably, but there is a Connecticut general statute that specifically addresses that, as I think most people know from their civics law class in high school or college. The state law, for the most part, preempts local ordinances or local regulations. And the state law in this particular case does permit a municipality to provide tax abatements, but it's void on how big that class can be. And more specifically, it specifically states that it would, that the municipality has the option to abate taxes for the surviving spouse of a police officer, firefighter, or EMT. This statute was enacted in 2000. I read the legislative history on that. There was no reference or discussion that indicated the possibility of expansion. There have not been any, other than one grammatical error change, have not been any changes to the statute in the last 24 years. Again, this will be a public hearing. I believe that if the council is so inclined to schedule it. And assuming that's the case, I would, at this point, recommend that we curtail some of the individuals that are named in the last proposed ordinance that was sent out around 3 o'clock this afternoon to exclude municipalities, school teachers, municipal employees, I'm sorry. And once again, as Mr. DeSanto said, this is not to limit individuals in our community. If anything, the council as a whole has attempted to expand that so that, heaven forbid, one of our citizens and one of the employees that work in our town are killed or die on doing the tasks of their job, there's a significant financial benefit for the surviving spouse that will ultimately have a trickle effect on the families. But I'd much rather be cautious and limit our language now than be expansive and run the risk of it not actually being permissible for our legislature.
Questions?
So Lou, you're suggesting eliminating school employees, teachers?
The only thing, what Lou had described is that we can keep police officer, firefighter, and EMS according to state statute, but we, according to state statute, cannot have active military, municipal employee, employees of the state or employees of public utilities, so including teachers. What I will say is, when we get later in the meeting, what we would want to do is make a motion for those 3 to be included and the other 4 stricken. And I would offer that I believe this council should send our original one to our delegates, our state delegates, and ask our state delegates to work together to introduce legislation that will allow municipalities like Southington who are interested to put these protections in place for those individuals. I mean, we heard a couple months ago about a DOT employee who got killed on the highway. Wasn't a Southington resident, but, you know, a public servant like that, having an accident and dying in the line of duty, if they were a Southington resident and had a Southington surviving spouse, we would want to try to capture that in our ordinance, which we can't do right now, unfortunately. So I think we should call on our legislation. We should put this in place if we can tonight. You know, of course, I'm getting ahead of myself, and we should ask our delegation to please work on legislation immediately, because I mean, we just saw a school shooting, for example, earlier this week. God forbid something like that happens. You know, I want to have this in place, and I want to say, you know, when we were talking about our veterans, ordinance a little bit earlier, disabled veterans ordinance. Southington had a local policy before the state policy, right? And I'm proud to say that Southington is progressive in looking at these things. And I think, you know, we're showing another example here how we want to be in front of this. And hopefully we can get the state to follow on quickly. So.
And if I can piggyback on that, at the council's request, I would also make a request for legislative opinion. Again, since there is no what we call dicta or any public comment about expanding that statute, an argument can be made, it's not to have in the dais today, that it's not necessarily limited to just those 3 occupations or professions. I don't think it's a strong argument, but it's an argument to be made. One of the benefits our legislature, our LOB, does offer is legislative opinions, wherein we can ask for a formal opinion as to whether a municipality has the authority to expand upon that. The sword cuts both ways. Doing that will essentially provide us with a definitive answer that we may not want, but it's not going to change the end result in the immediate one. The other part of it is they generally take 6 months or longer to get a response. So it won't be anything immediate if we do request it. But again, that's entirely up to the council. I would propose that's what we do, is a kind of attack it on both fronts. Get a legislative opinion, but more importantly, work on our local legislatures to determine whether or not they can push something through to allow us to protect other members of this community.
Can I?
Okay, please,
Do you want to follow up?
Chris or Val,
Okay,
shoot for it.
it's up to you.
1, 2, 3.
Maybe just to follow up. So, 2 questions, Lou. So, you're eliminating municipal employees, employees of the state of Connecticut, employees of public utilities, and what was the 4th one? Active military?
No,
Yes.
just the-
We're allowed to have police, fire, and EMS only.
Okay, so active military is the other one that's, okay.
It's coming off.
Yes. The second question, based on what you just said, Lou, because I know, Paul, you and I talked about this, getting this on the record for October 1st. If we move forward with this and put this on the books, if we move forward with it tonight, can it then be revisited, maybe through the ordinance committee, formally to amend what we potentially adopt so that it's in effect October 1st?
Absolutely, and I believe it could be, I can't give a definitive answer, but I believe that can be fast-tracked as well. If we get the green light, so to speak, I think it could be fast-tracked to amend this ordinance. But yes, it can be amended at any time at all.
Okay.
So, just to follow up on that, I thought this ordinance, there's no effective, we didn't have a 10-1 effective issue on this one.
We don't, because we have it requires a public hearing in 2 weeks. So I don't know there would be a 10.
Right, we would just schedule the public hearing for 2 weeks from now.
Right, but we're not, as far as the other, I understand on the other 2, the legislation behind it has the effective date of 10-1, so we need to get those public hearings scheduled.
Right, there's no
Get those
legislative deadline driving us on this.
No legislative deadline on driving
Correct,
this one. Thank you.
correct. The 10-1 benefit here is that it would affect the 10-1 grand list this year.
And I will double
So-
check with Teresa, perhaps tomorrow, just to confirm that we're not up against that. I don't believe that we are, but maybe you can answer that now.
As far as the.
We're not up against a 10-1 deadline, right? We can enact this anytime.
You're talking about the Aaron Pelletier.
That's
Yes.
correct, yes.
Yeah, there's no deadline.
Yeah, and what Val's referring to is the legislation on the
State level.
on the LOD, which is the next topic of discussion.
And the veterans.
We are under a deadline to get it done by October 1st, or we lose the ability to do it at all.
So I did want to raise that. I was just concerned that this one is not going to go to the ordinance committee initially. I just think it's an important one that should maybe go to the ordinance committee. If we
You're
don't have to
referring to
rush
the
it.
Pelletier?
The Aaron Pelletier proposed. I mean, I have some things that I wanted to raise tonight, Lou. And I didn't know if Bill, Councilman Dietzick had, any concerns about some of the language. Not concerns, but just.
Of course.
Maybe some issues with the language. So I didn't know why this one, we might not want to send this one to the ordinance committee.
I have a personal opinion on that one, and I'd be happy to share it whenever I don't know if we want to share it now, or we could share it later.
Well, if we're not going to send it to the ordinance committee, then I think it's important.
Yeah.
Then some of this, if we have to take out, the language really needs to be changed then, a lot of it.
Like what?
Are we doing that tonight?
Yeah, let's go through it, Val.
Okay, all right.
I
So,
think the appropriate time to go through it would be,
At the next.
discussion?
Yep, we'll bring it in under old business.
Okay. Thank you.
right, the last one, which was just discussed.
Oh, wait, I got a question.
I'm sorry.
Tony, that's right.
Yeah, can you explain in section 3, the eligibility for tax abatement? Can you explain the date of death language?
I'm sorry, to explain the,
The date of death language.
The public servant line of duty death must have occurred on or before January 1st, I'm sorry,
2024,
it
right?
should be on
Should
or
be
after.
after.
Oh,
Yeah, on or after.
okay.
Yep. Good catch.
I was wondering.
Maybe that's one of Val's.
It is.
Okay, good.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Tony,
I'll
you
leave
weren't
it.
saving
Right,
the,
I'll leave it.
let's save it for the next part of the
Yeah,
meeting.
right, right.
Okay,
Sorry.
item C, line of duty.
thanks, Tony, I really appreciate that.
Anytime, Lou.
Line of duty, that is the one which we just discussed, that does have a 10-1 date on it. I know that at least I believe the council has seen several different versions of this very document, and I'm referring to the ordinance, chapter 410, as to essentially how one would define if an individual died in the line of duty. I know there was an awful lot of input from an awful lot of people, including the chief of police, the chief of fire. I know I worked extensively with Alex's office, or with Alex, I should say, as well as Paul via email, exchanging various versions back and forth. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I'd be happy to expand upon it, but there's not a whole lot I need to explain on it.
Any questions on line of duty determination? Chris?
Not so much a question, but a statement. So just in case any council members haven't seen their council email, Mike and I spoke this morning, as well as town manager. We had talked about having a committee of 5 members, and the original draft in our proposal only had 3. That was just a simple oversight. We are looking to create a committee of 5, including the fire chief, police chief, human resource manager, town manager, and then someone from the medical field. So it's important because those last 2 members were excluded from the draft originally sent in the packet. So in case people haven't seen their email.
And if I interrupt you for a second, for all the council members that didn't see that, that came out this afternoon, the revised with the 5. So the one that's proposed today is the one that Chris is referring to.
With the 5. And I just want to applaud our town once again, because other municipalities have one person, individuals making this determination. The fact that we have a committee of 5, I think really. Smart. It is. It's the right way to go, and it takes out any impropriety that may occur.
Or motion.
Yeah.
Motion.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
No.
Lou, when you were for paragraph 2, when you were having discussions about when the committee would be set up, making the determination within 72 hours, if they need more information. Did you think about, I mean, 72 hours seems very quick, and I know you would want to move quickly, but if there's more information needed, if the committee needed to request more information,
Yeah.
you know,
the-
you would want to hold it. I
I
guess
could see you-
here's what I'm thinking. Where it says the committee shall be formed immediately, immediately could mean something different to different people.
Of course.
So I'm thinking, give a time frame for when once the municipality has notice, give, whether it's 72 hours or whatever, the committee is established, and then if they're able to make their if the committee is able to make a decision within, if it's going to stay 72 hours, that's fine. But I think you need to address, if the committee needs to request information, which you're only going to know once the committee gets together, and maybe they say, oh, we need to get some medical information, we need to get more information, then there should be a time frame. The committee needs to request it within a certain number of days, and then they have another certain number of days to make their
Which
determination.
should be added to that last sentence where it states the committee may request information needed. What I can tell you is 72 hours was a compromise with the town officials. The fire department wanted 24 hours, and I believe.
And that's fine. I know you want to move
Yeah.
quick on this, but I guess my concern is the formed immediately. I think you.
What do you
need to-
suggest, Val?
Well, maybe if you want to stick to the 72, it's up, or a little.
Because we have,
You have to get people
it's gonna be
together, don't-
formed in a certain number of hours, and then there's gonna be a determination in another center. So we should,
And
you
if
know what?
if the committee needs more information, I would say they need to give them more time to get the information and then make a determination.
Maybe we should carry the conversation into the next section of the,
Okay,
so
that's
that we
fine.
can.
I just- that was-
Because I think we should talk about those and we should incorporate them. I agree.
Incorporate them in. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions on line of duty? I do want to just say one thing about that, though, Val, without talking about I want to talk about the intent. Just keep in mind that the committee, in order to trigger the committee to be started, the legislation says that it has to meet a certain criteria of a cardiac event, stroke, or pulmonary embolism. It may be days, or it could be even weeks, before a cause of death is assigned by a medical examiner.
Right.
So during that time, I'm sure that there could be some preparatory things being pulled. So, but the committee is not authorized by the state to even be formed until it's determined that it meets those criteria.
Right, and that's
So
when the municipality gets
Then,
noticed.
yeah, once they're noticed.
Then it can be.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. We're done with the town attorney's report. Thanks, everybody. We're going to move on to item number 7, public communications. Any resident of the town who would like to
Yes.
speak?
I'm George
Please state your-
O'Burge. I'm going to make this very quick. Could you move public communications to the front of the meeting, please? I have to get home, take my meds. I'm sick. I've stayed now for 2 hours and 20 minutes waiting to speak, and I'm going to make it very quick. Mr. Town Manager, I'd like to thank you for your services. I think you're doing an excellent job, and I would meet with you privately. I would like to know who's accountable for the hazardous problems we have on our roads today. People not stopping at stop signs, cutting everybody off down on the roads. As to what's going on here, we have hazards down there right now, which is totally unacceptable. As to what's going on, I would like to meet with you privately. I wanted to talk to the police chief, and right now I'm shaking to death. I'm past the time for my meds. I'll just say this. When I worked for Anaconda and for Atlantic Richfield, we had rules. We were allowed to speak for about a minute. That was it. We were given written reports and then with backgrounds. What happened here tonight was totally unacceptable. The talking, the waste of words, and everything else. 2 people here tonight gave it brief, short, and sweet. Jimmy Morello and the town manager, and one other person. There was a lot of babbling that went on. If I had ever worked for Anaconda and Atlantic Richfield and wasted the time of the people here tonight babbling, I'd have been fired long ago. We were told to come prepared with our notes, with backup to be handed out. Much of this meeting should have been taken place in private discussion afterwards. Mr. Chairman, I don't know how much time you wasted talking tonight.
All right.
You babbled.
I think this is enough.
Mr.
And I will say
Mr.
that once and for all.
Okay, Mr.
That's
Roberts,
enough.
You be quiet.
No,
Mr. Roberts.
This is public communication.
Mike,
This is
Mr.
public
Roberts.
communication,
Mr.
Mr. Del
Roberts.
Santo.
Mr.
Public
Roberts.
Mr. Town
communication needs to
Manager,
be
can I make an
Go back to
appointment to see you
Anaconda.
alone?
Anaconda.
Mr. Roberts, you're out of
How
order.
disrespectful.
You're out of
I
order,
am
Mr.
not
Roberts.
out of order. I have sat here shaking for 2.5 hours.
How was that
Mr.
our
Roberts.
fault?
So this is what I'm saying, and I will say it. You wasted time, a lot of time, making an agenda for yourself. Mr. Town Manager, can I make an appointment to see you about the situation that exists, particularly with school buses going 50 miles an hour on Pleasant Street, not stopping at stop signs? The situation that exists with the traffic and with the misuse, people going through stop signs, passing on the right, is hazardous. Who is accountable for all this? Somebody has to be accountable for their actions. People sit here, pat themselves on the back, ask questions, take up time. Unacceptable. I will say that, and I will be held to the record. And for people watching on TV, people sitting back, like you sitting back on your back, Mr. Del Santo, who've been around for a long time. But I praise Jimmy Morello tonight. I praise the town manager. I praise this young lady over here. Get to the point, say what you gotta say. If you have a lot of discussion to make, take it back there. But say what you gotta say, make it short and sweet. If you got discussion, that's where it occurs. Why don't you let the people who've got something to say, short and sweet, get up and say it first?
Thank you,
Right
Mr.
now,
Roberts.
I'm shaking. I've said what I've got to say. But what I watched tonight, was totally unacceptable. Mr. Town Manager, when can I make a time to come and see you?
You can call my office tomorrow.
Thank you,
Speak
sir.
with Kim.
Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak?
Hey, I loved your speech, by the way. Ralph Lombardi, 77 Sheffield Place. There was a lot, I'm here for paving. You paved my road, and it didn't need it. Me and Mr. Del Santo went at it a little bit on social media. He called me adult. I've been insulted by greater people than you. But I let you have it, too. To be fair, I wanna make amends with you. But you told me, you know, I'm full of crap, and you did. You called me adult, and I was at church, and you said, "Oh, you got a lot of." You got pretty personal with me, you know. But I got a little personal with you. I'm sorry about that. But
Likewise, I apologize.
Thank you. I accept your apology. But you said to me, "I'm not a professional," and I got the list here. And in Sheffield, which you paved, it didn't need to be paved. I have property on Bishop Avenue, which is 40 years old, pothole, it has the low number, 49. What I'm saying is, you guys got, you know, I was talking to one of your highway workers, and he goes, I go, why is this being paved? Why is Sheffield, it's 20 years old. He goes, somebody's got connections on this street. So, you know, he probably was kidding, but.
I can assure you he was kidding, Mr. Lombardi.
You
There's-
sure?
Oh, I'm
no,
Mr.
the highway.
Lombardi, are you coming up here accusing the town of cronyism in the roads?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that's unequivocally true, and if you have proof of that, I would ask you to provide it.
Come on, you know I won't have proof of that. Come on. How you guys talk, how am I going to have
Mr.
proof of
Lombardi.
that? Come on. You're insulting me now.
No, you shouldn't come out here and accuse the town council of.
I'm not accusing the town council. I'm saying your process, you're not following your process. I'm looking at your Excel spreadsheets, and people were talking on Southington Talks, and everybody doesn't have integrity. If you're going to pay a company to do this, follow it, because everybody else is going to assume, well, why is that street done? And it doesn't. Yeah, it's just not right. If you're going to ask for $15 million and you want me to vote, you want us to vote for it, People are upset about the paving situation because that street's not done, this street's done. It doesn't look right. Another highway worker said, I can assure you, there's no politics involved. So I'm going to give you both, talking to two highway workers. So it's just conjecture, I admit that. But you got to follow your own list. We're paying this company, whatever you call them, I don't know what streetscape. And I love that you're doing the Cape Seal and it's saving us money, but you got to follow your own. If not, we're going to say that there is something politics.
Mr. Lombardi, I can assure you that there's not a person on this council who decided the priority of those roads. That was done by professional town engineers.
What professional?
They're sitting behind you.
You made the final decision?
No, what I'm saying is, Mr. Lombardi, there is professionals in the highway engineering that look at those things, and they're the ones that make the decision. Every member up here is not deciding on roads.
Okay, well, I'll have to take your word for it, that's all. But
We'll be happy to talk to you about it in detail.
I just want you to have objectivity and integrity in picking up. It's got to make sense to the public. If I'm upset, we were on social media with Mr. Del Santo. I like to give and take with him, but you get people. All I say, I have no kids in school. I pay $18,000 a year in property tax. I love the town, but all I see is snow plowing and paving are important to me. You want good roads. If you commit every 20 or 5% of your budget, every 20 years, you could have all the roads done. And all I'm saying is be objective, that's all.
Mr. Lombardi, you want to have a cup of coffee and talk about it? Because I'd like to talk with you a little more about it.
No, it's late.
Not tonight. No, not tonight. I mean, one day in the next couple weeks.
Want to arm wrestle?
No.
I'm like that gentleman. It's past my bedtime, I gotta go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you for coming out, Mr. Lombardi.
Regina Coviello, 12 Beecher Street. First of all, that's your job, is to discuss and ask questions in here so that the public does know, whether we're in this room or on camera, okay? So you guys are all doing your job. And second, I just have to say, I don't know if you realized, Paul, but while Chris was talking about the apple harvest and Pepsi taking over, you were literally taking a sip of your Pepsi. I just thought I'd let you know that. A little bit of humor.
You didn't hear about Paul's contract with
That's what I was wondering, I'm glad you said it, okay. But if you're getting free,
That's a
just
joke,
let
everyone.
us know.
Joke.
We know, it's a joke. But my question is actually for transportation. I wasn't able to go to the meetings or anything. And you said there's a survey that they want to put out. It seems like most of the survey, though, is, well, for people like me that might need it, elderly, okay. But there are a lot of people in this town that are young and they need bus transportation. They can't afford cars. And I'll give you a personal, we have one car. We have one car. When it goes, that's it for me. But I have my daughter, who is 35, and I have my granddaughter, who is 16. Right now, and I live downtown here, right now, if the bus came downtown, they could both get a ride to work. Okay, Ubers, if they have to pay an Uber, then that's less money they can give me to pay towards our bills. So I think that it should go further into town, maybe through Plansville. Think about the positives. Apple harvest coming up. How many people don't have to drive to get to the apple harvest? So, yes, what I'm kind of saying is you can't just look into the disabled, which I'm a part of. You can't just look into the elderly. Yes, we know we have a lot of things for that. But it is the young kids going to school that get a job and whatnot. They're part of the, like I said, there's 3 of us. And let me tell you, I'm tired as it is when I got to go out at 10, 11 o'clock at night and pick up my granddaughter. Because if we have to pay for an Uber, well, then I'm late on my taxes. So, honest truth. So we need to look more into the transportation. Okay? Thank you.
Can I answer that question? Okay.
Nope, all set.
All
Regina,
right.
thanks.
Come to the meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Public communications? Hearing none, we will close public communications and move into old business. Item A, action on hotel tax abatement.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send back a favorable recommendation for the tax abatement for the hotels. This
Second.
once- Oh, yeah, okay. What's that? Oh, we had the public hearing tonight for the, yeah.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Chris?
Just one point, actually, that you made at the last meeting, Paul. This applies to hotels, not to motels, and I think there's a big distinction between a hotel and a motel. And, you know, the other thing is, I think it's really important to reiterate, again, that this is not for any particular piece of property. We're talking in general of a hotel tax abatement to help our economic development department for the whole town, not specific to any one site. So, again, this is for hotels, not anything but hotel.
And more, Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, please, Mike.
And more importantly, it's for construction of the hotel. It's not for personal property. It's not for land. It's for the construction of the hotel. $3 million plus. And, I understand some folks don't think we need hotels, but hotels bring in a lot of tax dollars. So, that was it for me.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Now that George is gone, I can say this is a tool for the town. This is a tool that we use to attract business to town that pay taxes. So it's, again, it's not site-specific, it's for hotels.
Any other discussion? Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, obviously, we met at Economic Strike. We talked about this. Our economic director is the one that obviously presented it to us. I think it's very important that we are attracting businesses and giving them, the tools to be successful and then re-give back to the community by paying those taxes. So, me being a small business owner, my company was in the enterprise zone, and that was huge for us. And then again, you could look at, the finance director's reports. My business, made the reports for tax growth and constant, reinvesting in our property and building more. So it's the snowball effect. So I think, the town giving a little bit today, the dividends will pay tenfold. And, we heard, concerns of safety and all that. This is the revenue we need to make sure that we're, getting that revenue so taxes aren't going up and we can make our community as safe as possible. So I'm all in favor of this.
Thank you, Jack. Any other comments? For the town manager, this is a policy, right? This is a program.
Program that would be applied to by the council. And the beauty of it is, it gives you a little bit of control when the applications come in front of you.
Right.
So you can be a little choosy on who you give it to. You don't have to give it to everybody, as long as they fit the criteria, and you can work with the developers.
We could put stipulations on any approvals. There's pretty much wide open.
Correct.
So to Chris's point, if an applicant comes and we want to say, this is a hotel, you can't have exterior residential doors with balconies, that's a motel, we can incentivize it and say, with the stipulation that it's just making sure it's not a motel, right? So your motion, Mr. Del Santo, was a favorable recommendation, and I think it probably should just be an approval, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind.
I'll amend that approval.
Okay. And
I'll amend
Chris,
my
second.
Jack, you'll amend it to an approval,
Yeah,
right?
my subcommittee's
You're
mixed up.
thinking 824, right?
No, I was thinking economic development.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure
No,
it was proper.
You're right, approval.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
So we've heard the discussion, we've heard a motion and a second. If there's no objection, we'll move the vote. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Dietzick?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, the motion passes 9-0. Item B, action on the reworld resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented earlier this evening.
I'll
Second?
second that.
We have a motion and a second from Val? Okay. Any discussion on the re-rolled resolution? Okay, the only thing I would just like to say is it's going to be accompanied by the letter from the town council. So hopefully, we weren't voting on the letter, but I think everybody's kind of reviewed that, so that'll follow. If there's no other discussion, Madam Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes 9-0. Madam Clerk, I think we're going to have to call the roll on all of them on this section, okay, please? Item C, action on the water pollution control generator recommendation. We're looking for a motion to approve A&J generator for,
Motion to approve?
Second.
who was the second?
Jack. Oh.
Jack? Okay. Mike and Jack, motion in a second. I'm sorry, was it you, Tony?
Yes, never mind.
Sorry, it was Tony.
Doesn't matter.
Mike and Tony, please, Madam Clerk. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. We're looking item D, action on water pollution control 2024 SLARAT, service project recommendation. We're looking for a motion to approve Duke's Root Control.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Morelli and second from Mr. Del Santo. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes. Motion to approve is approved 9-0. Item E, action on DOT Master Municipal Agreement Resolution. We're looking for a motion to authorize the town manager with the resolution.
So moved, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Val.
Second.
Second from Jim. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes 9-0. Item F, action on Connecticut DEP Recreational Trails Program Resolution. Same, we're looking for a motion to approve the town manager with this resolution.
Motion to
Sign.
approve is presented.
Second.
Motion from Chris and second with Mike. Discussion on the recreational trails program. Hearing none, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item G, action on land use application fee schedule.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mike and Tony. For a second, any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, Val.
Just quickly, it might be in here, but is there a date that these will be effective? Are they,
We have to publish it, and then 15 days after publication.
what is
15
it?
days,
Publish it 15 days after publication.
Okay, thank you.
so a little more than 2 weeks. Okay. Any further discussion on the land use application fee schedule? We all had the schedule in our packet that was referred to us from planning and zoning. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item H, scheduling of public hearing for disabled veterans proposed ordinance.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for our next meeting, which is September 23rd at 7 PM, for the disabled veterans proposed ordinance.
Second?
We have a motion and a second from Chris and Val. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dedzek?
Yes to public hearing.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously to schedule the public hearing. Item I, scheduling of a public hearing for Aaron Pelletier, Public Service Surviving Spouse Line of Duty Tax Abatement Proposed Ordinance. Before we do a motion in a second, why don't we talk about the language that we want to change? Val, I think you had a few suggestions. We've already heard section 2.2, we're removing active military, municipal employee, including teacher and Board of Ed, employee of the state of Connecticut, and employee of public utilities are stricken. We've also heard from Tony, section 3.2, changing before to after.
Right, on the date.
Okay.
So I would say in section 1, we'll have to remove the language which talks about active military members, municipal employees, employees of the state of Connecticut, or employees of public utilities.
Mm-hmm.
And section 2, in subparagraph 1, I believe we want to say killed in the line of duty as defined in section 2, which was the line of duty death, and then who meets the eligibility criteria outlined in section 3, not section 4. I might be, on the first one, section 3 might be okay. I just don't know if that, section 3 is the eligibility criteria.
Okay.
So it's, for talking about the surviving spouse, in defining the surviving spouse, it says a resident of the town of Southington was killed in the line of duty as defined in section 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at section 3 more as the eligibility.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we would say in section 2, because that defines, it's the definitions, it gives the definition of line of duty death.
Right, 2.2.
Right, so you could say 2.2, or you could just say in
Section 2.
this section 2.
Yep.
And then who meets the eligibility criteria outlined in section 4, it should be section 3.
Yep, correct. That's correct. Yep.
And I did, I'm just going to suggest, bless you, adding a number 4 in section 2, add number 4 and define the effective date. Because there's a couple different, section 4 gives the effective date. It says shall be effective the first grand list following line of duty death and apply for a maximum period of 15 years. But then in section 7, it says the tax abatement shall expire after 15 years from the date of approval of the initial application. So
Correct.
it's a little, well, there's
Right, so
two
once it's
different.
approved, they get 15 years.
So I guess we would just want to clean up, like, make it clear what is the effective date.
Well,
Define the effective date.
I think the 15 years is consistent between both of those. We're basically saying the same thing there.
So is the effective date then,
Because they have to apply each year. So they,
because of the grand list?
correct. So they have to apply each year for the tax abatement. So basically, from the day that they start, they can apply for 15 cycles. If they miss one of those cycles, they still can only apply for up to 15 cycles.
So they have to
They
apply
have to
with their
apply each year.
annual
Correct. Each year, there's kind of
affidavit
a
each year?
recheck, yep, to make sure they're still
So
eligible.
does it make sense, I don't know, I might leave that to Lou, does it make sense to define an effective date?
So maybe we strike in section 4, Val,
Just so there's no confusion.
the effective date. Right, so the effective date was meant to be, you know.
So they know
if there was
every
a
year,
death,
right?
Yeah. The effective date was meant to be, you know, from the time of the loss.
Right.
The next grand list is when the eligibility starts.
Right, so that's when it will start, so I'm wondering if the effective date then should be the initial application, right?
So
And
the
then
question
every
would be,
year
what if they waited
thereafter.
20 years to apply?
Pardon me?
So the question, this was meant to try to guide the applicant so that they're applying for, during that first grand list opportunity, because that's when, when it's, so I guess the question would be, what would happen if somebody applied 20 years after the accidental death? That's what this is trying to define. It's
Right.
trying to say the effective date should be from the date of the first grand list after the
But
incident.
but they're going to, it's after their initial application, or it's on their initial application. Right, because section 7 says the tax abatement shall expire after 15 years from the date of approval of the initial application.
Right, so I understand what you're saying.
I'm just-
To me, I think there's a slight nuance there that we need to clarify. How do you suggest we do it?
I don't know.
We have a-
I'm getting tired.
Alex, we have an effective date, right, of when they're qualified, right? So,
There's two dates. You've got an effective date of when they qualify. That's the first grand list after the date of death. Then you have an application date, and that's the 15-year cutoff. So you're trying to merge those two together.
We're just talking over here.
Could just be 15 years after date of death, and that could be the duration.
Can I suggest we eliminate section 4 completely? Because it's covered in now, section 7. It tells you when it's going to expire. It's just, it eliminates.
but instead of it being maybe what it should be is 15 years after the date of death. Then, if we're gonna eliminate it, let's make it that, and then it's.
Because the application could waited 3 years, and now you're at 8.
You may not apply right away, like
Correct.
you said.
So we strike section 4 completely.
Yep.
Keep it clean. And then section 7 will be tax abatement shall expire 15 years from the date of, from the date of death and from the first grand list,
The immediate grand list after the date of death.
first grand list after date of death.
But you have to also, but they'll have approval. You have to,
From the date of death and, well, you can't have, then you have the same problem,
Same problem.
and date of approval. It's either one or the other.
yeah, you have to make sure that they get, we don't want them to, because they
I
can.
don't think we need to put in there that it's, I think it's implied that when they apply, it's the next grand list, right?
Next grand list.
So let's
Right,
not worry about
I think the
when.
grand list you can,
Let's
don't
get
worry
rid of
about,
it.
right.
So 15 years from the date of death, and then get rid of date of approval, right?
Date of death.
From the date of death.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
Strike grand list.
And so it'll say, section 7.1, which will actually become 6.1, the tax abatement shall expire after 15 years from the date of death.
Right, and Lou, if you want, you can, as I said, you can add a number 4 in section 2 and define effective date.
Instead of 15 years, should we say 15 tax cycles?
You could say
So that,
that.
because it will take, if somebody says, well, the date of death was here, but we never actually got to apply for our first
That's
cycle.
right, that's what
so-
you're trying to
So maybe we
avoid.
say it's 15, for the
Tax
following 15 tax cycles
Cycles.
after the date of death.
Okay,
Is that okay?
I think, yeah, just to clear, just to,
Shall expire after 15 consecutive, after 15 consecutive grand list cycles from the date of death. Okay, I'm going to read it again. The tax abatement shall expire after 15 consecutive grand list cycles from the date of death.
okay. As long as you feel comfortable with that.
Are you okay with it? I mean, we
Yeah.
can,
I just think to keep it consistent.
I think so too. You guys okay with that? Is that clean, Bill?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I had was, in section 3, number 4, I would just put the surviving spouse must have owned the property at the time of death. And continue, so the surviving spouse must have owned at the time of death and continue to own real and/or personal property, which is subject to local taxation, and then for the duration of the abatement.
For the
Duration of the abatement.
of the abatement. Okay, I'm going to read it back to you, Val, okay? Section 3.4, property ownership. The surviving spouse must have owned at the time of death and continue to own real and personal property in the town of Southington, which is subject to local taxation for the duration of the abatement.
Right.
Can
Just
I-
because the eligibility, right, you
So-
want to be,
I don't want to go too far. We're not a dowry state. So a spouse's rights in the property, they're not there unless they're actually on their land records, right? So just because they were the spouse, I mean, I wouldn't want someone to not get it because the
Because they
husband owned,
weren't-
right? I mean, if you're a
right.
dowry state, you could say, well, here you go, but
because
we're
they
not.
weren't on title, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. So, but what is the requirement? We're saying
There just has to be an ownership of property to be taxed if you want to
Right.
abate the tax, that's all. So somehow we have to,
They'll get the certificate of devise, and then that'll be there, I mean, right?
That'll
like
be
that's-
there, right, yeah. Because we're saying the surviving spouse must have owned
How about the
and
sur-
continue to own.
can we say, should we say the,
In order to do an application. You could say must own, right? Because then they'll get their certificate of devise
Yeah, at the time of, must own at the time of application.
at the time of
can we say the
application.
public servant, can we say the public servant and/or spouse must have owned?
Well, I think
At the
Bill's
time of
right.
application? No, at the
Yeah.
time of death.
Well, no, because that's the problem we're trying to get avoided. What if they
Right.
don't, if you
What
have
if they
land
don't?
records, and that day it's possible they might not own the property, and that's probable, that's not.
That's a good point,
crazy,
yeah.
You know?
At the
But
time
they
of
might get a
death?
certificate of devise, then make the application.
Because one spouse, sometimes one property is in just one spouse's name.
Right.
Right, so Bill's right. I would say at the time of application. That the surviving spouse must have owned and, at the time of application, must have owned and then continue to own.
The surviving spouse must,
Or you
well,
could s-
the surviving spouse didn't necessarily need to own it, right? The surviving spouse must own at the time of application.
At application, the
Okay.
surviving spouse
The
must.
surviving spouse must own at the time of application and continue to own real
To
and/or
own.
personal property in the town of Southington, which is subject to local taxation for the duration of the abatement.
Thanks, Bill, that's a good catch.
What did you call it? What's the term?
I mean, it could be a number of ways, but.
Dowry?
Dowry,
Certificate of devise.
Yeah, that's, okay. Okay,
So, and I just have one other thing I wanted to ask Lou. So Lou, if we ask for a legislative opinion,
Yes.
and let's say it comes back in 5 or 6 months, and it allows, it looks like it would allow
expand, sure.
to expand it, then we could send this to the ordinance committee, or we could review it again?
absolutely.
Okay.
And we should.
Yeah, I think we should,
Yep.
yes. Okay.
I have documented all, and of course, we have it in the transcript, but I have this that I'll pass to the town clerk. Jack?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we went back and forth 15 years and all that. So under Section 3, number 4, and then Section 7 under number 2, I think we just kind of clarify, hypothetically, somebody moves out of Southington, moves back into Southington. It talks about them moving out, but it doesn't talk about them if they do move back. And there's a lot of people that do move out, that then do move back. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that, but, you know, that may be a gray area that I think we should kind of, you know.
They'd have to
maybe-
reapply, right?
They'd have to, well, one thing is for sure, it's 15 consecutive cycles from the date of death. So if they move out in there, they may lose some cycles.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't say that they're not qualified anymore if they come back.
Okay.
So I would assume that I would say that it's assumed that if they come back, that they're still eligible for the duration of the 15 months.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we wanted to clarify that, because again, you're assuming that, and maybe somebody at a different point in time will look at it and go, no, that was not, you know, or they'll look at the minutes from this meeting and see that we talked about it.
Right, that was the intent.
Yeah.
Is there something that you want to propose adding in
No.
there, Jack? Because
I just wanted to bring it up to everybody's attention.
okay, so now it's on the record, though, so people do know the intent. Okay, any other discussions on this one?
Paul, just make sure
Yes,
in the
Chris.
original, Section 5 now becomes 4.
Yes.
6 becomes 5, 7, 6, and 8 becomes 7.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so we've discussed that. Now we're looking for a motion on all of the items that we've marked up as proposed.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for September 23rd at 7 PM for the Aaron Pelletier Public Servant Surviving Spouse Line of Duty Tax Abatement Ordinance.
As amended.
As amended.
That's all from me. I'll second that.
Mr. Okay. Good. Mr. Del Santo, any further discussion?
No.
Okay.
Done pontificating.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Patting yourselves in the
DiPaolo?
back.
Yes?
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously 9-0. Item J, scheduling, pass that down, please. scheduling of public hearing for line of duty determination, proposed ordinance.
I'll make a motion to also schedule a public hearing for September 23rd at 7 PM for the line of duty determination.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and now we got discussion, and we have to get back to where Val and I were talking a little earlier. Val brought this up. Section 2, in those circumstances, we need to talk about within X number of hours. I'm sorry, the second line says, "The committee shall be formed immediately." So instead of, it should say, "The committee shall be informed within X number of hours upon the municipality being in writing." So just the forming of the committee, what's the reasonable time to form?
Talking to the chief, the Chief Heath, he definitely wanted this sooner
Sooner
rather
than
later.
later.
So I'd almost suggest 48 hours, the committee being formed, and then we stick to the 72 hours to make the decision. Because what's in here, what's critical is it will not happen until we receive a report from the chief medical examiner's office. And that was Chief Daly's concern, is that we may not receive the report, the autopsy, until days, weeks later. So now that that's in there, the clock starts once we receive that medical report.
Well, what happens when it's on a Friday with a
Yeah.
holiday weekend?
Sunday.
It's like you're now asking them to say,
Yeah.
hey, you gotta
So
meet
maybe business,
Sunday.
48 business
If
hours.
I mean, I'll say this.
Maybe business days?
8 hours are as reasonable or as reasonably practical.
Or 2 business
You could
days?
just have to
For
firm
2
it up
business
a little.
days, fine,
2 business days?
fine.
Yeah, I think that's smart, 2 business days.
I mean, listen, here's what I'll say. This is not hopefully happening regularly.
Yeah.
So if it happens on a holiday, I hope that the people who are involved here, just to form the committee, can get together for an hour on the phone and say,
Right, we're formed.
we're formed. So, I mean, you know, I could say 24 hours, to be honest with you, but, I mean, I understand that the holidays, you know, the town manager's probably gonna be the one to get this, or one of the emergency chiefs.
You're gonna know right away.
They're probably gonna take them a day or within the day, so, you know, if 48 hours is reasonable, anybody here have an issue with that, or do you wanna go shorter?
Christmas brisket with Quincy.
48 hours, okay. So 2 business days.
2 business.
So it will say, "The committee shall be formed within 2 business days upon the municipality." Within 2 business days.
And then, Paul,
Yep.
I think just to keep it simple, keep everything the same. You have your decision, committee shall make the determination within 72 hours of the committee's formation. The committee may request information, and then add a sentence after that. If the committee has requested information, then you need to give the committee another a certain number of days that they can make a determination.
Here's the only thing I'll push back a little bit on it, and Chris and, you know, Mike can refute this or dispute this a little bit. But I can say that from what I heard from the chiefs, you know, they want this decision to be made quick, because there's some history where the decisions weren't made quick, and this legislation was intended to allow for a quick decision. So if we put in a lot of bureaucracy, that gives a lot of outs and a lot of, the goal is, by the time the committee is formed, they will already have known that it was a cardiac event. The chief involved, who's gonna have the employee, is gonna know that their employee was on duty, and they're gonna know the circumstances by then. And that chief is gonna sit on this committee and be able to speak to it immediately. So the determination, really, of whether it was in the line of duty, once the committee starts talking, I don't think there's a lot there. I mean, there could
Do you
be.
need to maybe remove the sentence that the committee may request information, or just leave it as is?
Personally, I think it's implied. I don't think we need to, the committee can always request information.
Because you don't want somebody to say, well, if they have the ability to request information.
Yeah.
So maybe just remove that. The committee will,
okay
if
with
they
that.
need
Chris?
information,
I'm
they'll
okay.
look,
Yeah, that's
they'll
fine.
get it.
Fine with
Okay.
it.
It's implied, they're gonna ask
They're
for
gonna ask
information,
for
there's no
information.
question. It probably should say the committee will request. But, okay, so we'll strike the last section, last sentence in section 2.
Perfect.
Realistically, I think this is reasonable, because now it truly is 5 business days, but it's not, which is a week, right? Because you've 2 business days to form the committee, then you have 3 business days really afterwards. It's 5 days to make a decision, which doesn't even start until the autopsy is received. So I think it's reasonable.
Okay. So, now we need a motion, we need a motion based on what's been presented.
I'll revise my motion to include the recommendation and the modifications we made on the council floor.
Okay.
Second.
And Tony, second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll just say thanks, everybody, for doing this. I know it's, we got a lot of things moving around here, but I think that, you know, what we're doing here is really important. And, you know, if it means an extra 2 hours and, you know, working a little bit later tonight to get this stuff done, I know maybe some members of the public were a little frustrated about some of these discussions.
Time in the beginning.
But they're not easy, you know, they're not easy, and, you know, we're gonna have these discussions, regardless of when we take them up, and, you know, here's what I'll say, I just wanna say, I think it's better that we have these discussions in public. I think it's better that we hear, that the public hears where our mind is at, and that we're working for them, and that we're talking collaboratively, and that we're getting things done in a way that is, you know, respectful of each other, but also aiming towards a common goal, and I think that's what's really important
With
here.
that being said, Mr. Chair, Mr. Town Attorney, we want those back tonight.
Yeah, okay. So, Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Chair.
I will not go to
call
bed
the
until I
roll.
receive them.
I'm sorry, was there another question? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Well, I think it's just important to say that none of us are paid, so it's not like we're milking the clock up here. We all want to get home. We all want to.
I'll be making a phone call.
We've got work to do during the day. We're trying hard to do all this stuff as much as we can.
Yeah, you know, that's really important. I think that, that's a great point, and the points that everybody's made. I mean, we're all volunteering, we're all, you know, this was a long agenda. We knew we were going to be here long tonight, but we're putting in the work, and we're doing it for the residents in this town.
Thank you.
So
And
thank
thanks,
you all
everybody.
for- thank you
Thanks,
all for
everybody
doing it.
who worked on it beforehand, because I know it wasn't easy. And thanks for the good dialogue. Mr. Vice Chair.
I had a lot to say tonight about this, actually, and I obviously don't have time, so I will say this. Pretty much from the minute that we heard about this incident, Paul and I were talking to each other, texting each other. We stood on the bridge on Dunham Street together by accident, and we constantly said, what can we do? What can we do? And before I got home, my phone was ringing. I'm sure all of yours was ringing about how Southington would respond to this. And I think Paul was very wise. He said, let's just wait till the dust settles and see what we can do. And I like the fact that this is a bipartisan effort to do the right thing for Southington. So I'll talk a little bit more about it when we talk about it in the next meeting, but I think this is a good thing.
Yep.
So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
DiPaolo?
Yes.
Dietzick?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, the motion passes unanimously, 9-0, to schedule the public hearing for our next meeting. And now we're moving on to item H, scheduling of public hearing for line of duty determination, proposed ordinance.
No, that was one we just did.
We just did that.
Oh, sorry. I didn't pass it in, sorry.
wanna waste
And I got
more
it crossed
time?
off too, and I'm reading it.
Tax refunds.
It's already after 10 o'clock. S, we're going to go on
It's like,
to Section 9, new business, item A, tax refund. Sorry, you guys.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve our tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Appointments. First town council appointment is Central Regional Tourism District Board, one member, 3-year term expiring September 2027.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Lou Perillo to serve as a town liaison to the Central Regional Tourism District Board.
Second.
Could that be amended to call the Economic Development Office, the office, not the person?
Sure.
The Economic Development Office is the
That's
amended
who's being-
motion. Yeah. And then we had a second for that. Who was the second?
Me.
Jim. Okay, thank you, Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 2, Seed Commission, one member, 4-year term, expiring August 2028. We're looking for a motion to reappoint Juanita Champagne.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have 2 more. These are the two that are added on under new business, item B3.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Grappone to the vacancy left by the previous town engineer on the SHS Roof Committee.
SHS Room Committee. We have a second? Jim? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then item 4 is the appointment to Apple Harvest Committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Grappone to the the vacancy formerly filled by the town engineer.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Talk
Thank you,
about
Val.
a few things.
Do we need a second?
Second.
Unacceptable.
We got a second from Jack.
Anaconda.
All in favor?
Aye.